You want to do it?
No, you can do it.
All right.
I already put all my juice into that pre-intro that didn't get recorded, so you can go ahead and record.
Welcome, everybody, to
another exciting episode of the Terrorisk podcast.
Yeah.
With my co-host.
Carmen did, in fact, have some Jews left for...
Yeah, I always have some Jews left. Opposite of Germany.
Yeah. So this is episode number 3 that Carmen and I are doing together, where I'm not drinking.
Yes.
Well, neither is Carmen.
That's true. Not this one either. Not this time. I did last year, which I mentioned too many times for something that was a one-off event. But neither of us are drinking. Yeah. It's an exciting new world of sobriety here at Terrorisk. Less meandering, less dead pauses trailing off.
I wouldn't say it's that different.
No, it's not that different at all. Yeah.
What is different is like towards an hour and a half in, you'll hear less slurring.
That's true.
I notice I slur.
You'll hear just as many slurs, but less slurring. You're right.
Yeah, and also I guess you'll see the episodes come out sooner. Like one of the things I noticed from not drinking was releasing content in a more timely fashion.
Because you didn't get wasted at night, or because there was less to edit?
I don't know. I think it's more subtle than that.
Both?
I think it's like I was basically taking 20% out of my juice every day, and 20% is not enough to notice. But when you do get it back, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah. You're operating at a higher capacity.
Well, I don't want to put it like a Sigma grind set, way like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
true,
you mentioned before you're not a big fan of the Sigma grind set.
I mean, because this is just me personally. For other people, they could not drink and they could do something entirely different. When I don't drink, I guess I'm a little more productive, so it's not that interesting. It's pretty boring outcomes. Like, I'm sorry I don't have like a sick withdrawal, like I need a...
Oh, I said this before off mic, but oftentimes as a heavy drinker who's still not an alcoholic, you think you're going to have a heavy withdrawal, and instead it's mostly just a little bit mental, or at least in my case, one issue was I'd be at a non-work social event and I found myself more awkward, especially because everyone else is drinking. Until people got drunk enough and I was still sober and I felt more in control of things. But that was the only real change I noticed. Other than, spending less and rejecting offers of alcohol. But
the only thing I cared most about was spending less. That's what I noticed the most. Maybe it's because I just spent so much on fucking drinking without even realizing it. I also like to buy drinks for other people.
It makes sense, yeah.
Like if I'm talking to them. But, yeah, I mean, not drinking. Definitely getting more money, definitely feeling that. Oh, definitely saving more money, I should say. And it's the first thing I noticed. But getting better sleep, that's another thing.
Yeah.
Also procrastinating less.
Yeah, alcohol is interesting. It's been with us for so long. Peoples that have had more exposure to alcohol handle it usually better than peoples that don't, which is to say, like, Native Americans, Aboriginals, absolutely destroyed by one shot of alcohol in a way that people in Eurasia, lesser extent Africa, but Eurasia in particular, not as much. Or like a lot of Mongol Khans who had barely any drinking when they went on the warpath and were conquering places that had wine, often drank themselves to death. A lot of Genghis Khan's kids, grandkids, great-grandkids drank themselves into early graves because they just weren't used to having the availability of alcohol.
Yeah. I mean, on one hand, it's probably like kind of stupid and redundant to be like, oh, you're a heavy drinker who's not an alcoholic to say that. But on the other hand, I think it's probably like, it should be worrisome that it took me like 33 years to determine fully if I was an alcoholic or just a heavy drinker.
Yeah, a lot of people like here's the thing. Like if you drink 3 drinks a day and 8 on every weekend day, you might think I'm an alcoholic, but actually you probably just have a drinking habit that's not great for your health, but it's not absolutely destroying you or an absolute dependency. And when you go sober, it's actually worthwhile seeing because you're like, oh, I didn't get DT. I guess I'm not that bad.
Well,
And when you deal, like, if you ever go to AA or talk to real hardcore alcoholics,
yeah, that's the
you'll really notice that when they're drinking amounts of alcohol that even as a heavy drinker seem insane to you because they're drinking throughout the day, they're constantly buzzed until they get trashed at night. Like someone who's drinking like a fifth a day or something like that, which is not unusual.
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? Like when we're all teenagers and we're drinking like throughout high school and college, like we think I mean, like our frontal lobe might understand there's a clear difference between a heavy drinker and an alcoholic, but it's in the back of your head. The difference doesn't really apply to you and people you know, but it's not until you start to get older, like in your mid to late 20s, early 30s, until you start seeing like, oh, some of my old friends who I used to drink a lot with, they're not doing okay anymore.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Or like a friend of mine who genuinely was an alcoholic and is sober now. It was only when he went sober and I thought back, it was like, oh, when we would hang out and we would get blackout drunk. I thought that was because we hung out often enough. We didn't get blackout drunk all the time. I barely did. But I always thought of it at the time as, yeah, we just had a crazy night hanging out. And it's only in hindsight that I was like, oh, wait a minute. No. When he said, yo, let's get a bottle of liquor and then like go see this movie or whatever, I thought it was like, yeah, we're just partying up. But actually it was just a necessity or just something he was doing all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you would say like we're just partying up, but I would also kind of see it that way too. But maybe it was just life was different for me, and I didn't realize life was different for me than my friends, because in my friends' eyes they might have looked at it as we're just partying it up. But for me, it's like
move away from the mic to cough. Go on.
But it's like for me, I'm like I want to party it up when I can, because usually the rest of my days are always shit and stressful, like especially during my younger years.
Yeah.
So like I didn't realize that I was partying along with my friends, but then like when we weren't with each other, they were still doing that shit, and I was like working my shitty fucking job at McDonald's, like trying to fucking pay rent.
Yeah.
I think that was a factor too. Because I thought I was bad, but I was, at least in my head, I was like still going to work and all that shit, and I just assumed that's what everyone else is doing, until like years down the line, I was like, oh no, you didn't even do your life shit at all. You literally, like when we weren't partying together, you were still off like doing the same shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's a problem.
Also, just because you get older, even in your 30s, these things can start hitting you or start having cumulative effects that are less noticeable in your teens or 20s.
Oh, for sure.
I've gone hard many times in my life, but I've also spent prolonged periods of time of sobriety or not going hard. Even just, frankly, a lot of the time just because I didn't have anyone to do it with. Because for someone as sociable as me, a lot of my life I was pretty socially isolated.
Well, yeah, me too, because I was the Asian kid growing up, but I still had a lot of friends, consistent friends to like hang out with and party with. The only thing was like, I felt like I was very integrated into my friend groups. It was just, I was always, not intentionally, but I was always just at a distance, maybe partially because of my race, partially because I was from Queens, partially because a whole factor of small reasons that add up, but ultimately amounted to me being somewhat of an outsider figure in every friend group. Now, again, like I was still integrated into it. It just, you ever watch like those movies where the main character like goes into a local town, and in this local town he befriends a gang, and this gang is super tight, they have so much history. It's almost like the story stops being about the main character and more about this gang that he got like into, and by the end of the movie the whole gang dies, and the kid, the original narrator, is the one alive to tell the story.
What are you referencing here? I'm thinking
this is a lot of fucking movies, but
like what?
It's specific, but I think widely used. Like there's this one Elijah Wood movie. I mean, there's all variations. Like sometimes, like not all the time, like the whole gang dies, but usually it's like the main leader of the gang dies, and then the kid, and it's like the one who was at the end of it all was left, who was actually like closest to him when he died, was the outsider, and I feel like that was the position I've always played or was always in when it comes to friend groups, But you could picture what I'm saying, right?
I think I can, yeah. And
like remember, like Moby Dick. Wasn't that quintessentially Moby Dick? It was about this outsider.
Okay, fair, yes.
Yeah. It's a
To a
common
certain degree,
trope. It's a common trope. You know,
Well,
it's
I
like,
mean,
basically it's the storyteller, the outside storyteller who gets
yeah, you're right. He gets brought into this world. Oh, I see what you're saying. Gets brought into this world that's already pre-established. And
that-
that kid on
yeah.
the block. Okay, fair enough. I'm sorry.
I mean,
I
the
was
new kid on
giving you a hard time, but-
on the block is important. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
Well, because that character, the viewpoint character, is the introduction
That's
of
the audience's
view of the
viewpoint.
audience
Yeah.
to this group.
So I think that's
Not starting a media res with it.
I think that's why I was always there to see everything, but B, I never sucked me in completely because, I mean,
You were never there from the start. You were
Exactly.
never a founder in
Exactly.
the friend group.
exactly no matter how close I was with all my friend groups, it's not like I could ever fully. I wasn't like them 100 way. Like I wasn't white, I wasn't Italian, I wasn't Irish, I wasn't Puerto Rican, I wasn't black like the kids in the group home. I wasn't any of those things. I was always at least for knowledge phenotypically.
Yeah,
I was always
phenotypically,
phenotypically an
yes.
outsider. Yeah.
Yes.
Unless I hung out with a group of Asian kids, and that wasn't really fun. I mean,
That ever happen?
of course, like, because there was a time when I was 14, I moved temporarily. This is fucked up. So 14, 15, I was temporarily in an abusive situation with my dad when me and him, we had a really bad relationship in those years. And like when I wasn't there around my dad and his wife, like I would go see what's up in Flushing, like hang out with the Flushing kids. And I was
Yeah.
like 15, 16. Of course they were all Koreans, but these Koreans, they were like different. They were like bad Korean kids.
Yeah, really.
They were like getting into gangs and fights. They loved fighting. They loved like getting fucked up, doing crime, gangster, like hood rat shit, and
All second generation, I take it, or immigrants?
50% immigrants, 50% first gen. So it's like they were either directly born from immigrants here or they moved
Well,
here.
yeah, unless you're born on the West, it must be interesting to be an Asian American who's to be a Chinese
Honestly, I
or
don't-
Japanese Asian
honestly,
American
I-
from the West Coast.
Honestly, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't respect them.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, go on. Tell me more about this.
No. It's not that I don't respect them. It's
They have a different culture. They have probably a very small subcultural element.
No. What I meant to say is whether it's Asian, Hindus, Latinos, black, like 6 generations in America does something to your family line. It does.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hate on it too much because it's not like I plan to go anywhere. So it's like I don't want to sit here and be like, call my fate like the worst fate in the world. No, I'm not even saying that, but it does something.
They assimilate pretty quick. I always find it noteworthy. I don't know the exact statistic, but when interracial marriage was, Virginia versus Loving, it was passed across the entire country. Japanese Americans, more so than Chinese Americans, like Japanese Americans who had been here for like 4 generations or something, almost all those boomer Japanese Americans married whites, both men and women.
Sure.
It was like once interracial marriage was allowed, they immediately assimilated into the white populace.
That's why you see so many half Japanese, half white actors. Like
yeah,
B-list-
West Coast heavy. It's very much a California thing, right?
Yes. Look at Steve Aoki.
Yeah.
Look at Joji.
I don't know. My dad always mentioned, and he felt embarrassed by this, that he was always surprised when he met an Asian American without an accent. But also, it's because he's from the East Coast. If he grew up in California, it would have been different. He would have known Asian
Man,
guys.
your dad would have gotten a kick out of me.
Yeah, you would have gotten along great.
Yeah,
You have
for
a bunch in common.
For sure. I think the reason why it's very easy for me to talk with Americans is because, like, I would say about at least 98% of my American cultural insight and mannerisms were amalgamated from all like the movies and the television shows I watch. But then I think that's as American as you could fucking get in a way, like
It's very much an immigrant story. You hear that about early 1940s immigrants who spoke like Clark Gable because they had learned English from going to the movies all the time.
Yeah, but I didn't learn it from going to the movies. I learned it literally. That was my sitting there in front of a cable television, like late 90s.
Yeah.
Was basically the way for me to do exactly what the other American kids from my school were doing at the time.
I find this very relatable. This is one of the factors we get along. Because I was isolated in Maine. And frankly, just because I was such a nut and a weird little kid, I was pulled out of the school system.
Yeah.
I was disruptive enough.
If you lived in Staten Island, you would have ended up in Montessori like me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's not even the weird kid. It's 50% weird kid school, 50% rich kid school.
Oh yes, that would be a good fit. Yeah, spastics and wealthy.
But everyone who came out of that school, as far as I know, is doing pretty well. None of them are like fucked up.
How much of that is a selection effect, do you think?
I think it's purely nurture environment. It's because of the environment. It's because the classes were really small. It's because like everyone knew each other essentially on a first and last name basis.
I don't doubt the nurture part, but I do wonder how much of it is the type of kids that get sent to a Montessori
Well,
school.
no.
And the type of parents that would
that
send them
extends
there.
beyond the kids. That also, but you're right though. I do think, but I think it's more
The
complicated.
selection effect. I agree.
I
It's
think
complicated.
I think selection effect also extends to the parents, like the type of parents that would even
Yes,
think
exactly.
to send their
That's
kids.
what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
Yes,
100%.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
like
Yeah.
more disruptive or absent parents or a mix of both or more conventional parents just wouldn't consider sending their kids to Montessori.
I'll do it right now.
Please.
I'll basically character profile the type of parent that would send their kid to Montessori. Basically, they would obviously identify as a Democrat, not necessarily a liberal. They would obviously have money because it's not cheap. They would have to give a shit because you don't send your kid to Montessori if you don't give a shit. It's a lot of like effort and hands-on, like schooling. So it's like you do that for your kid because you care very much about their formative development. So that's three things. And another thing is you're probably intelligent, as in like you're probably the kind of parent that comes from like the types of adults that don't usually have kids, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? Like you ever see Idiocracy and that trope where it's like only the retards had a shit ton of kids and the smart people just kept thinking about it and thinking
Yes.
It's like those kinds of parents, So yeah, I hope that's like enough at least to paint somewhat of a picture as to the kind of selection bias that specific archetype of parent would like represent.
Yeah. A lot of single kids there, I'm assuming. Single children. Without siblings.
And if they did have siblings, they would also be in the same school.
And only one other sibling?
Sometimes there was like
A couple?
like triplets.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Or twins.
Twins feel like they would naturally be selected into Montessori schools. It's something that seems very significant. How many pairs of identical twins have you known in your life?
Well, I grew up. I still know one identical twin. He's like one of my closest friends ever. I've known him since I was like 14. So there's one. In intermediate school, in our grade, there was like one set of triplets, and everyone knew them because I think their parent or their whatever worked at the school too.
Yeah.
And that's always another thing, like going to school with a faculty member's kid. But yeah, triplets and twins. I've known a bunch.
Yeah, same. I've known like 5 or 6 pairs of identical twins.
Yeah.
And then I meet other people who say they've never known a pair
Interesting.
or never met someone who had an identical twin. It's weird hanging out. Did you have the experience of hanging out with an identical twins and you know which one you're addressing, which one you're talking to, but you use the wrong name?
No.
Interesting. Maybe it's just me that I've done that.
I could usually tell very
I can tell
easily.
which is which very quickly, but my mind doesn't say the right name sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, the only times where it's hard for me to tell is if they're really, really, really young.
Yeah, I can always tell, and I can often guess which is the older one.
Yeah. So yeah, Montessori, weird school. Pretty cool though, pretty chill. I'd say like I never had one real abusive situation in Montessori. I never got into a fight with another kid. Everything was like, it really did feel like it was paradise. It was like if I had a kid, I would want very badly to send them to a Montessori school. And maybe that's a selection bias on my end.
Well, you also had a positive experience with it, so it makes sense.
But then again,
That is just that's just selection.
But then again, it's just kindergarten, preschool, elementary school. Like, who really gives a shit? But I don't know. Maybe it's more important, But then again, I think like you also get serious problems when you pull a kid from that kind of environment and throw them into public school. It's like, dude. Because it's a very different. That's what happened to me. I went through like private formative schools, and then it's as soon as
I went to
intermediate
public school for kindergarten, Catholic school for first grade, and then I was homeschooled afterwards.
Yeah, I went to public intermediate school, public high school. And that shit fucked me up. Well, it didn't fuck me up. It just it paralyzed me with freedom. as soon as I got to high school, it was like, wait, I don't have to go to school anymore.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned that. You basically were a dropout, or you were a truant,
Indeed, I was.
which is less common in this generation, but for boomers is very common. Do you get along well with white boomer men a lot?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course I get along with boomers. Boomers love me. It's because
Yeah, same.
I'm not a fucking retard.
Yeah, yeah.
Or at the very least, I try not to be, and that's all it takes. All it takes is for boomers to like you. Is try not to be a retard. You know, try to make better decisions. Try to be a person who at least seems like
Yeah.
they make better decisions, and boomers will like
For
automatically.
all
like,
their faults, most of them, at least the ones that are still around today, that's another thing, is that a bunch of them died earlier. The real fuck up boomers have been dead for a long time, and the people we know that survived this old are ones who survived that winnowing process.
I definitely get along better with older people.
Yeah, same. Always did.
Older people, because I think older people listen better because they're more interested. You know, they've already been through all their crazy shit, so now they'll actually like be willing to give you a shot just for the sake of it. Whereas younger people, they really don't do that as often. And what's awesome about when older people give me their ear and I say something that genuinely surprises them, I like that, because like that tells me it's like, well, I'm talking to a person that's been on this earth for more years than I have, and I'm still able to surprise them. So, you know, it's like, it's cool. It feels good. And that's why I like talking to older people. That's one of the reasons, like, you know, I think that's one of the reasons why my life is so good. It's because I get along really well with my mechanic. You know, I listen to my mechanic as an older man, a more experienced guy who's good in his field. I listen to him, and I do as he says when it comes to my car. My barber is an older dude. You know, I go to that guy because he knows what the fuck he's doing. He doesn't try new shit. Doesn't try to be overly friendly. He just lets his, you know, crap do. My dry cleaners, they love me because, you know, I treat them respectfully. They're, you know, it's like an older couple, Korean couple, and, you know, like I'm super nice and whatever, and I you know, do as they say. And I think like that, like things like that, it really greases the hinges in life, you know?
Yeah.
And my accountants, they like me too, you know? Because
Hey, boomers often have the last people I meet with like serious competency in a lot of fields, even in their advanced age.
that's who I learned from.
Yeah, same.
I mean,
And
what are you saying?
no, even things I can kind of do, I can meet people that are older than me that are really precise in a way I'm just not.
Well, I could say like boomers taught me everything. Boomers taught me how to read. I think that's
You've talked about this before on the podcast, but yeah, same.
I think that does also come from the kind of education you have. If you work at like a public school or whatever, or you know, a big school, you're more likely to be taught by a young, inexperienced teacher who needs the work. Whereas
This was a big factor in my dad pulling me out of school and then homeschooling me, was feeling that I was also just very disruptive and spastic and like a proto spree shooter type. And he just didn't want me to be medically influenced by psychiatrists in the school or by teachers or by the general field.
yeah, that makes sense.
And I think he'd made ultimately the right decision, even if I probably would have been hindered either way. I definitely was stunted in a bunch of social development, but I suspect I would have been stunted as much, or maybe more so, but less so in a bunch of other ways had I been in a school system. Some ways I would have been better off, but in other ways I'm not sure I would have.
I mean, yeah, I could see that. I mean,
It's hard to say because now I've become so functioning and normative compared to what I was. I don't mean to say this as whining, by the way. I'm generally not bothered by it, but I don't want to use it as an excuse either. But people who know me a long time have mentioned how I seemed borderline disabled when I was a kid, and now I just seem like a normal, if quirky, person.
well, I mean, yeah, I used to do a bunch of reckless shit when I was a youth, when I was a teenager. I used to write graffiti, I used to steal shit, I used to set shit on fire, I used to do all sorts of shit. And I guess in a way I could say something similar, where it's like if a person now looked at me back then, they would have been like, you're unhinged, or maybe my friends at the time were like, thought I was crazy or the craziest one. But the truth is, I think it's just because when we were all doing relatively crazy shit and I was able to like scale it a little further, it's only because looking back, I think all my friends were doing crazy shit as a means of exploration. I was just doing crazy shit because like, oh, this is what you guys want to do. You guys want to do some crazy shit? Okay. Because for some reason growing up, I knew what real crazy shit actually was. I think that's because of my father, because of like the shit that, like, you know, there's growing up and then there's growing up. Like when you make your first memories and it's just you and your dad, who's like trying like a reformed thug, you know, from the streets, and he's like showing you all this crazy shit and like taking me to all these crazy places when I was like barely able to walk, you know. That's, and then so by the time like I was a teenager, you know, trying to, you know, whatever, do crazy shit with my friends, you know, and then they would like think I would be doing like insane things, and I'd be like, oh, you think this is insane? But whatever, you know, like looking back, it's like it's all just childish shit for everyone around. It is involved, but still, like,
it's funny. I've said this before, but we have like a very similar relationship with our fathers, because my father, though significantly older than yours, had a similar thing.
Yeah,
it was more like having a reformed thug grandfather.
Yeah.
That was raising you.
Yeah, so I think that's why the old school spirit never left me, because the way the Asian gangsters roll is old school. Mm-hmm. So that's what brought my dad up, and that's kind of like, whether my dad chose to bring me that way up or not, it's like it rubs off on you, you know?
Yeah.
You see it, because when, all right, it's like when things are going good, you want to act the way you want to act, but when things are going bad, you default to the things that you know will work. And when I look back, it's like my dad didn't necessarily teach me certain things, but I watched how he handled himself during certain events, which teaches me what
with other people. My father could become a lot harsher and scarier with other people when the moment came up, and it always took me by surprise because he was such a friendly, sweet guy.
Yeah, I got that dog in me, you know, like,
you
see it. Unfortunately, you've seen it a couple of times, you know, like, but it's not like I ever go like way over line, because I know what that means too. And I know what that looks like. I know what it looks like to take it to the next level, which I generally seriously try not to do when it can be avoided, you know, like, otherwise you would have seen me in those situations, but I never do, because I don't think it's worth it. One, two, it's like, it's just in a pure lizard brain sense. It's like, it's not beneficial. It's not optimal. You know, it doesn't really, you don't gain.
No, you don't. Yeah. There's a lot to be said just for being emotionally composed.
I mean, yeah, like, and that's the scary part about being like, I'm not going to say like crashing out, but like calculatedly, like lawful evil, like calculated and cruel, and which, you know, that's what, unfortunately, that's my style. Like, that's what I do. Like, I like to be like calculated, but at least I'm open about it. Like, I don't like to play sneaky games. Like, if I feel like doing it, I had to have been pushed to this, like, not extreme level, but far enough where it's like, I'm gonna say some things that might hurt your feelings. Okay. So it's like, so there's that, but I generally try to avoid it. And it's like, also, you know, when it comes to violence, I don't know. It's not even like, violence is just, it's almost like a chore at this point for me, because I do martial arts.
And when you get older, you realize how stupid it is.
Oh, no. I mean, I was never like a fighting, getting into fights type of person. It's the whole martial arts thing. I mean, doing martial arts, I don't do it so I could be violent. I do it because I want to get good at something. And then on the path to that, you just happen to have to experience a lot of like physical harm done onto you if you're doing it right, you know? So I got used to that. And I guess it really just helps to like not be scared of it.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's one thing not to cause confrontation, but you also can't be like afraid of it.
People are so divorced from it, and it used to be so common everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Still is in many parts of the world.
Well, I guess it's only a problem in a collective sense, right? That's how governments walk all over a whole country.
Low levels of ghetto-like violence were common throughout the world until recently, dying off, I think, more so in East Asia first than Europe. But even here in America in the 19th century, you had like gangs of hooligans beating people to death, or guys having duels in the Senate. Or lead up to the Civil War, senators used to get into fist fight and cane fights in the halls of Congress.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't see. In a way, it does kind of, things do move in a spiral, especially culture. But like, I think it's, no matter what, the dimensions are changed now in people's like consciousness. People are learning to play more meta games, I think. They should. Otherwise, it's like, you're like basically a lower species now. If you have no meta, if you're incapable of identifying a meta narrative for yourself, it's like,
yeah, you know about, what is it, the Parahi? in the Amazon, where they have a very devolved language that allegedly has no meta narrative, no sense, no like past or future tense, limited counting, a belief in animism and spirits, but no grand cosmology. It's just like small tribe in the Amazon. And their language is lacking any recursive element like that.
Okay. That sounds
It seems very animal-like.
or very intuitive.
Very simple, too. Very intuitive, yeah.
Like they have to rely more on facial cues and gestures.
And they're interacting with the outside world. They trade for, like, Coca-Cola, and they wear, like, manufactured shorts while living in a village. Near enough to a city. But I don't know, the lack of having that narrative, yeah, compared to most people.
Yeah, especially now, like more people are even like I don't know. I don't want to start racially and culturally and profiling my class here. It's just
I think you should. I want to hear more about that.
okay. Well, now like when you watch spiritual YouTubers doing tower readings or just I call them internet sermons, like new age sermons. That's essentially how they function. Like
Yeah, it sounds like it's like the conversion part of a religion, right?
or I don't think it's conversion. I think it's more like maintenance. Like you know, churches don't really exist to convert people. Churches exist so that Christians have somewhere to go. That's what it's supposed to be. It's like, oh, we
The
have
community, yeah. At one point, there was a lot of conversions and people changing churches throughout their lives.
yeah. So when it comes to like meta narratives and spiritual beliefs and whatnot, you gravitate towards people who share similar meta narratives as you. Obviously, it's just natural. It's human nature. But aside from that, it's also more profound because you're not just connecting on the basis of a material need or a material aspect of life. You're converging on the basis of what you intuitively not think but know is, you know, because if you get to a certain level of understanding, you're just like, well, there's a way to understand this where you can't really put it in like words accurately. So there's that. And as for the people who can't do it at all, like shit. But as I was saying with the YouTube people, you have like these YouTubers who are basically at the tarot readings I get, you know, that's cool. That's like, you know, you pay a psychic, they give you a tarot reading, whatever. It's when they could do a tarot reading and it resonates with like, say, 10,000 people. There's something to that. That's pretty novel, you know, especially to
That is novel. That ability, it's like a new broadcasting technology, new mass media technology of the internet.
Exactly. And then, you know, everyone's going to do it differently. And then there's that. And then,
I'm sure there are tarot readings on the radio.
and then that eventually either morphs into or just outright is also just entirely differently just a video like every single day of 20 minutes talking about metaphysics, talking about not like metaphysics in the specialist or the technical sense, but metaphysics in like the new agey spiritualist sense, you know, where it's like, and I think it's good, like encouraging gratitude. Everybody should be more gratitude. Encouraging like self-alignment and shit, you know?
Our tagline, Terrorisk, we are gratitude.
We are gratitude. We are gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yeah, so yeah, you're
like a skateboarding Buddhist monk where on its saffron robes it reads, I am gratitude.
well, I equate that to like church, you know, like the modern iteration of like church. It's like people log in on YouTube, and instead of watching like their usual TikTok junk, maybe now they're watching like tarot readings, or maybe now they're watching like spiritual astrological forecasts or some shit. I don't fucking know, whatever. There's a bunch of shit out there. But what's interesting to me is that it's not like Christianity or Judaism or the Muslims are blocked from doing this for their own shit. They're still doing it. It's just this other shit is starting to really overshadow it. And I think
a bunch of people don't have exposure to it. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit, easy converts, as it were, or easy people to get into it.
No, I mean, yes, and on one sense you're right, but it's different though when you have like physicists, kind of like, and because remember, there's different context to it. There's levels to it where it's like some is just crazy nut job conspiracy reptilian shit, whereas others is like it goes really into the quantum physics of things, where it's about like, you are technically a quantum conscious being that transcends your physical form and your mental form and all that shit.
Yeah.
So there's different, and it's serious when you have like the things that like actual physicists and theoretical physicists are saying running in line in parallel with like the conspiracy nut job bros, and sometimes you get overlap, sometimes you lose one to the other.
The thing about the conspiracy nut job bros, when it's described that way, they sound fun and colorful, but when you get to know them or see their content, it's very boring.
It's also serious shit in a lot of ways. They're talking about like child trafficking and shit, like real shit. Stuff that really does at least come into contact with very real phenomena that just can't be explained and is very ominous and malicious.
It drives a bunch of dumb people nuts.
Of course. But
they're nuts in a similar tedious kind of way. Does that make sense? There's often like people who are very delusional converge on similar delusions.
Yeah, well, when it comes to these things, I always look at it as, this is why I always preach self-alignment. When you're unaligned and you come into contact with this kind of subject matter, it's going to fuck you up. Mm-hmm. It's going to destroy you. It's going to absolutely tear you up from the inside out. Because when you're unaligned, like let's say you're an atheist.
Yeah.
Or let's say you're not really good to your soul. You're just good to yourself mentally and physically. Or you're only good to yourself physically and spiritually, but you treat your mind like shit, like garbage. You look at yourself as an idiot, whatever. You consume junk media all day. I don't know. When you're unaligned and you come into contact with these conspiracy stuff, I mean, some of it is worth looking into because some of there's probably like a grain of truth in all of it. But the kind of person that would, and it's not like it's an IQ thing. Plenty of smart people go off the schizophrenic deep end. Plenty of stupid people do as well. It's something else, and I think it's a thing of inner alignment. How aligned, like if either your mind, body, or soul is at war with any of the other three elements, then you're fucked. And then the problem is, back then it didn't matter who's going to get into fringe topics like this, but now it's like getting shoved in your face. So now it's becoming even more prudent than ever that you find self-aligned, even as a stupid layman,
Yeah.
An ignorant, willfully ignorant person, you're still going to come into contact with all this shit. And if you're not prepared, you're going to become a schizo like everyone else.
I wasn't in, but apparently a guy yesterday, before I started my shift, a schizo came in with like a photocopied piece where he's just rambling about time and his shitty relativity, and asked my coworker for $1, which he gave. And looking at it just ends up, there's real things turned into nonsensical babbling.
Many such cases.
I'm looking at my phone to bring it up here, where he's like, fact or idea, and it's written oddly. Good handwriting. Does the sentence pertain to all? Yes. If, is the sentence just an idea? Yes. Time is navigated by the intuition of accumulation. Like, look at, like, you already, I don't have to.
No, it's just the thing is, like, this is how I know, like, you don't got it, because like it's like if you can't say it where like an idiot like me can understand it, I mean, then it's like you're lost in the sauce. It's like that's pure narcissism at that point. It's like spiritual narcissism.
Yeah,
it's meta narcissism.
Meta narrative narcissism. Yeah.
You're spiraling out of
meta narcissism,
and because the scariest part is like anyone could fall into it. It's not like it's very easy because what this means is that one, reality is subjective. Reality is downstream from consciousness, at least on like a particle level. Because like just observation manipulates certain things to the most fundamental level we could possibly conceive of with the human mind so far, and that being said, if you fixate on that for too long, it's basically staring into the abyss. It's like, wait a minute, there's nothing here. There's nothing holding up. There's no bedrock of reality. That might lead one to think, imagine all sorts of horrible things, all sorts of fantastical manic things, all sorts of depressive things. It's like, it's very easy to get lost in the extremes because they're trying to find answers outside of themselves. This is why it just goes back to self-alignment, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. Perhaps it's a journey they should go. Sometimes people start a spiritual journey too soon.
I don't know. You have then again, you have those like people who just get it when they're like 80, or who get it when they're like 18.
Yeah.
You know?
As in all those Buddhist anecdotes that end with, and then he was enlightened.
Yeah. I don't put too much stock in the age, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I think is a requisite? Honestly, unfortunately, trauma.
Yeah, I can see that.
You have to. It's like being brought down so low. You're connected by the center to an elastic band. Like, let's say spiritually, your soul. And the more lower polarity you go, the more it stretches that rubber band, right? And then by the time you get to the like as low as you could possibly think you could stand, it's not until you look down and you realize, wait a minute, I've been pulling myself. I've been in control of that hand the whole time. So then you're like, what if I let go? And then you bounce, and then you bounce so high up, and you could only bounce that high because you were stretched that low to begin with.
Yeah.
And that's when you start like your journey of like your meta narrative. You know, you understand. You basically understand like the polarity of positive and negative within your own life and how it's actually ultimately you that affects it every single time. So once you understand that, there's some people that get stretched so far down, the thing snaps. So even if they let go, they're just gonna fall into oblivion. They don't even get to snap back up. So it's really about like how low can you go before enlightenment, you know, because enlightenment isn't really a choice after a certain point in life. As long as you stay alive, you're going to reach a certain point where it's like there's no other option for you, bud. Like if you're not spending every day worrying about shelter, worrying about predators trying to kill you, worrying about like basically real animalistic like terror, then you're gonna come across this problem, this meta narrative problem. And more people are coming across this problem, which is why I think materially that's a good sign. That means more people have it better than ever. If we're coming across real existential shifts, then yeah, we've reached a certain level, a stage of abundance. We're not fully there, obviously, but it's really hard to look at, like, at least in America, like people who are starving. It's like, no way, no, you're just stupid.
Yeah, in America, yeah. The claims of hunger in America, it's always abuse or neglect or stupidity or local dysfunction.
Because you couldn't always say that about America, at least in the past century. There was a time
everywhere in the world in the past, up until very recently, it's been like that. People really there really are enough calories to go around.
There really are enough calories?
There really are enough, yeah.
So now it's like, as a species, we're just coming to grips with that. It's like almost like one of the reasons why we're so fucked up is because we don't know how to handle abundance. Mm-hmm. In fact, some of us are so bad at handling abundance, we have to make up collective existential issues because without them, we have no semblance of identity.
Yeah, no drama, yeah. There's no struggle. People will invent struggle.
Which is terrible, you know, and like this is why I just gave up on politics.
Yeah, it very much is people. You know, politics exists now as an attempt to generate meaning.
Pretty much, and in the most negative,
which is not what it should be for.
In the most negative way as well.
Yeah, well, people were doing the same thing in the early 20th century with totalitarian philosophies like fascism and communism, and they were far more destructive with it. But they just didn't have the distractions we do, nor the wealth we do. So they're able to really crash out. They're able to go bonkers with it in a way that people just don't have the organization or heart or perhaps youth to do anymore.
Are you the type of person you would say to romanticize past ages?
Yeah, but I try to be realistic about it. I think a lot of meaning generation just gets undermined by a broad cultural cynicism and jadedness, which we grew up with.
I think when it comes to like past eras, I'm very presumptuous because I presume to know enough about it, and which is why I never openly talk about it, and which is why I call myself, I call it an assumption, but because I know it's true. I didn't live through those times, but I presume that I don't have to worry about like them becoming or have like worry about having to wishing I was like back then, because I feel like enough of the good points of it survived.
Yeah.
Like I see elements of my
I think honestly, the good points that people, when they romanticize the past, probably one of the most common things is that there is a lot of young people. Part of the implicit premise of wanting to be back there is being young and out within that field or in that cultural milieu. Buffalo, New York in 1900 was undoubtedly very boring compared to modern day America and lacking in products and wealth, etc. But there probably was something to when you're young there, the median age is much younger. There's a lot more going on. Does this make sense? I think oftentimes romanticization of the past, perhaps what's really being romanticized the most, is being somewhere with a bunch of people your age.
No, yeah, I understood it, but I was thinking like the reasons why I romanticize past ages is because they just did certain things better.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to crafts, when it comes to engineering certain things, when it comes to designing certain things, when it comes to lifestyle, certain choices were just better back then. And what's good though, I mean, I'm sorry, like you're right, that might be a legit thing. Like, there was just more people to hang out with and do stuff with. Yeah, I guess more people my age even.
I agree with the craft part too.
That was my thing.
Yeah,
about it,
there's a lot there.
Yeah, I mean, you see, and
mass production's been around for a long time, but what was being mass produced in the past is not what necessarily being mass produced today.
But for me, it's like the stuff that I truly quote unquote miss about old ages that I wasn't even around for is they weren't even lost to me. There's still stuff I could do, like Japanese sword fighting and driving a stick shift manual car. Writing in cursive, handwriting things instead of typing them on a screen or on a keyboard,
Yeah.
I still do these things, and I do these things specifically. I mean, I used to do them just for posterity's sake, but now I know on an intuitive level because of a meta narrative that your soul engages with them differently. That's where your passion comes from,
The interacting with things actually analog, actually tactilely, is a big difference with your body in a way that some of this completely abstracted. Whenever I've tried typing on a traditional typewriter, I'm struck by how weak my fingers are. Like my pinkies have trouble hitting the left and I have trouble hitting the A or Q or P or L when I'm using a manual typewriter.
I mean, yeah, I 100% agree with you with the analog versus digital interface kind of thing. But what I will say for digital interfaces and digital interacting with creation on a digital level, I would say one of the things I appreciate about it. All right, to go off on a brief tangent, like when it comes to cars, there's something called like OEM. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't.
All right, this is a job for
Google?
Yeah, Google. OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer, referring to companies that produce components or products that are integrated into finished products by other companies, which then sell them under their own brand. So it's basically like in-house shit. Like if I break something on my car, I could get aftermarkets like made from like a part, like a side view mirror made by a third party.
Yeah.
Or I could get one made directly from Ford. And the thing about aftermarket is some aftermarket parts are better, but by and large they're usually shit. Because with OEM, it's like it's the piece designed in a way that was intended with the overall design of the rest of the thing.
Yeah.
So what was I talking about before? Oh yeah, okay. Digital and analog interface. So when it comes to the OEM shit, there's something called OEM Plus. There's a stupid way to mod your car, which is get all aftermarket parts, and they're just ultimately they look cool, they feel cool for like a year, and then shit starts breaking down and just not working right because it's not OEM. Then there's something called OEM Plus, which is basically you're not switching out a good idea to try to find a better, different idea. You're just taking a good idea and improving on it. So instead of getting like a whole different aftermarket thing, you just get the upgraded version of that piece, So I would say like when it comes to digital versus analog, like when it comes to writing, you could say like, oh, writing digital, like writing analog is better, but that doesn't. We shouldn't discredit digital interfaces completely or digital ways of like typing and creating, because for example, because of a digital interface, I was able to get myself like optimize the most, like get myself the most optimal analog writing experience ever. I could get the best fucking notebooks off Amazon. I could get the best kind of ink, well researched, well documented, well studied. Like, like you know, like I could break down my analog writing experience to a science, which I did. You know, I do get honestly, and I think the best notebooks you could possibly get as like an avid journalist. And I wouldn't. When I say journalist, I mean a draftsman, like a person who journals. But like, yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do that without the fucking internet. You know, like I wouldn't have. And you know, like I don't want to say like, oh, everyone should just spend their money on the nicest notebook and that'll be. No, it's not that. It's like you gotta start doing it before this stuff like actually matters. You know, it's like driving. It's like, what's the point of having a souped up car if you don't even really drive? Like, so you still have to start it, but definitely the optimization. I think the internet is great for optimization, like digital interfaces and digital elements of a thing.
It's like better. How the internet makes a lot of people dumber and crazier, but a small number of people it makes much smarter.
That's a very uncharitable but true way to put it. Yeah,
you see it particularly among Zoomers, where a bunch are just broken, but there are a few that are like hyper competent.
Yeah. And the way they're competent is great because they usually start pulling out, like, again, they just go back to the basics, start pulling out notebooks and start jotting shit down because they know it's not about the thing. It's about the framework of the thing. Input, output. Are you getting the proper output for what you're inputting?
Yeah.
When it comes to energy, time, money, resources.
That writing by hand, the way you're thinking about things, interfacing and taking a look at something is different than just logging notes on a keyboard or on your smartphone notes app.
And referencing it.
Yeah.
You're more likely to reference something if it's like written down by yourself, no less. So yeah, I fucking love journaling. And I journal with everything now. Like honestly, like I even keep a car journal. I've recorded every maintenance thing I've ever done. I have a driver's log when something like weird or new happens with the car. Every time I need something repaired, I write it all down.
Yeah.
I keep track of the odometer. You know, because like that's how you keep your car running too. Like you have like a maintenance schedule. Every 10,000 miles, you get your tires rotated, you get your oil changed, oil filters changed, air filters changed. I think driving a manual car really teaches you about cars, like inadvertently.
You're having a tactile input and interaction with the car in a way you don't with automatic.
Yeah. It feels more like an extension of your body.
I can tell you're a great driver. Obviously, I know you're a great driver. Particularly with you driving manual, though, I can see you having that homunculus effect of the car being an extension of your body.
I see what you mean. You mean like when the driver does like subtle movements, but the car seems to like make the right sounds and the right movements and the right gestures. Yeah. And the way that's basically just treating the car as an extension of your body.
Yeah, and something we do in general when interacting with machines. You see it when you're interacting with video games too.
And it's doing its job properly if the user takes it for granted. If the user takes it for granted, that means the process is so seamless that it's working, it's doing its job. However, when the user doesn't take it for granted, that's when like they take it to the next level. Or maybe they could like revert back to older interfaces. Like you use Windows long enough.
Yeah.
Eventually,
I can't stand Apple. I never have owned an Apple product because I've used Windows so long.
I'm just saying, you use Windows so long, eventually you open up that little CMD window, the command window, and then you're like, oh, what's Linux? And then that's when you say, oh, what's 5-speed manual? Like what's driving manual? I never did that before.
I was never able to get into Linux. Bounce right off of it, but
Linux is easy. It's not
I've
even
heard of that.
It's just it's all the same shit.
Yeah.
But I say that with like everything. Like like I use FL Studio, quote unquote Fruity Loops, and there's also Ableton, Reason, Cubase. But I tell people it's like ultimately the same shit. When I give people advice though, like who are curious, which is funny, we could talk about this as a trend thing because like I don't hear anyone saying they want to be a music producer anymore. It's like that. It's like we all got old enough to know. Some of us at least got old enough to know that was a dead end.
Yeah.
But not for me though. I didn't learn that lesson. I'm still banging my head against that wall. But anyway, I always tell people like, just go for the most popular one. You know, go for the one that any of your music.
There's going to be a lot more support material available. There's going to be a lot more YouTube videos about it available. And you, as just like a hobbyist, someone who's entry level, I'm not saying this dismissively, who's only ever going to be a journeyman, and it makes perfect sense to use the most popular one.
Yeah. Yo, so did I tell you my new music production strategy?
No. So
I'm gonna.
Or you did.
I'm gonna niche down. I'm gonna start making like dry fast music, like
yeah, Fast and Furious music, racing game,
drift funk they call it. And I like drift funk, and I like it because to me, it hits all the right chords for me. Like it's utilitarian, it's got a function. It's multifunctional, meaning you could do it while driving, and it's also like high energy music. So if it's at a club, you're like, whoa, you know, it's gonna have a cool novel vibe to it because it's not like regular EDM. Like it's got a different, more degraded vibe to it. It's supposed to like resemble like early 2000s quality. Like it's mid-fi, I would call it.
Okay.
And so there's that, and it's just cool. It's like a cool thing, and I would use it. And it's like, even if it doesn't get like traction with like an audience, like if I could test it. If I could listen to this while driving fast in New Jersey, then it's good. It's working. And but I think from there, it's like I have basically I have faith in it. Like I have a good feeling about this direction, and it's gonna be fun. I showed you like a little sample of it.
You did, yes. I described it as like Tokyo drift music.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of seemingly borderline racist use of like an almost Oriental riff and like a Japanese woman singing.
No,
broken English.
No, that's how Tokyo Drift song was. But the real way to do it is to use that racist sounding instrument you hear. That's actually a cowbell, a melodic cowbell, and it's tuned and affected to sound that way. You use that, and then you got to use like a really degraded sample of like Memphis rap.
Okay, I could see now. I'm not a big rap head. I'm not a backpacker.
Like pistol on the mattress, drink in my cup. Got a fat shorty, I'm a fucker in the butt. Yeah. That bouncy Memphis dirty rap.
Yeah.
So you sample that, and then that's dry fast. And then you got to have like heavy bass, you know, like 808s or some crazy like fuzzed out like shit that you would see on TikTok. Yeah, it's like that kind of shit. And it's what you would use for like drift videos, backdrop on a car drift videos. And yeah, I think and it's also like it's niche enough where there's like playlists for it, but not that many playlists. Because I know this because I get frustrated. Like I'm looking at Spotify, I'm like, where the fuck? Like I want more drift funk, so I have to make it. I have to fucking contribute. I mean, if you see a need, you fill it, right? Like,
yeah.
And it's fairly new. It came out around like everyone's gonna say you're wrong. But like if you know what the fuck you're talking about, but I'm told. That it came from Russia, 2021 around.
What, hard bass?
No, drift funk. You got to listen to more drift funk to get a proper character profile.
I guess I do, yes.
Yeah, I'm not saying like habitually. I'm just saying like just to get an idea.
I don't even know what I'm talking about. You're right. Yes.
No, I'm just
guessing that, but
I don't know if it would be your thing, but I don't think you would hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've listened to it while driving in my car before.
It's fine. Sometimes I hate it. Sometimes I like it.
I think it's good when you're driving fast.
Yeah.
And like also, yeah, some of the songs fucking suck. I think it's because it's like such a limited thing. Like most of the shit is probably up in like SoundCloud somewhere. I gotta be serious about it. Like that's why again, like this is gonna be its own journey. So
you want to take a break?
Give it like a few more minutes, and it'll be
all right.
past the hour.
Sorry. I didn't realize I was jumping the gun on it.
No, it's all good.
Aesthetically, it feels like cars have less cultural dominance than they used to. I'm assuming due to different age demographics, but I'm also not looking probably in the right place.
Yeah. I think I was never into cars before until I got this one.
Yeah.
And well, also, I mean, I was even before I got my car now, I was always into driving like manual, like, you know,
Yeah.
I was into it enough because it's what I watched growing up. I watched a bunch of my uncles drive stick. I watched my dad drive stick, my godfather drive stick, and they all drove like really fast cars. So I was like, all right, let me try. And I tried driving stick. I was like, this ain't so bad. And then eventually I was like, wow, this is actually really fun. Like, and it makes driving an enjoyable process. Also, again, it teaches you things. Like, it shows you things. It shows you. It doesn't just teach you about your own car. It teaches you about how other people drive. It makes you really pay attention, and it's safer. It's honestly safer. I think you get into fewer accidents when you drive stick because you pay attention more. Straight up.
That makes a lot of sense. I've seen that when you're maybe a little bit too drunk to be driving, there's things that seem like they would have been accidents if you were driving automatic, but driving stick, you had control over the situation.
Yeah. It's because you're forced to.
Yeah.
Same thing with riding a fixed gear brakeless bicycle. It's like totally my bag. Anyway, we could take a recess. And yo, we're back. We're back, all you motherfuckers. Got my Earl Grey tea, which I was just explaining to Carmen is one of my favorite teas. And it's not even like a specialist here or anything. It's literally one of the most ubiquitous teas. But it's just...
Yes, ubiquitous for a reason.
That's a good point. It's just... Earl Grey has like so much to it. You know, I smell like a bit of black pepper, but also lemon. It's like I said, there's a lot going on in there. It's got citrusy notes, and with milk and honey, it's like the best.
Yeah, very British.
Yeah, I've been drinking a lot of tea. It's because I've been trying to cut down on coffee.
Yeah, good idea, probably ultimately.
Yeah.
I should try that because my father was always a big tea drinker and avoided coffee. I think it was because he got too amped up on it. My dad was particularly sensitive to stimulants.
Interesting.
But he was very fond of them.
Yeah, stimulants are great.
He never did cocaine. He was averse to it because he felt like it would hit him too hard. Same thing with Adderall. Or speed in general.
Well, the trouble is most people overdo those things.
Yeah.
I never felt the need to overdo it.
Cocaine is a drug that makes all your friends more annoying.
I mean, I never minded friends on cocaine.
Me neither, but I could see the problem when people get really edgy or deranged.
Well, it's funny because I'm just always slightly edgy or deranged.
Yeah, same.
And cocaine, if anything, kind of mellows me out.
When I get drunk, I usually get more apologetic or more... already I become more conciliatory, but... especially when drunk now.
I don't know. I mean, my tolerance for alcohol is so high these days.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much anymore.
It probably resets, what, a few weeks or something? Maybe it takes longer to reset your tolerance to alcohol. But it takes a little while.
I'll definitely never forget the feeling, though, so...
Yeah.
I mean, the feeling of, like, knowing when you get to cross that line. A lot of people are bad at it.
Yeah, a lot of things with drugs are knowing the lines for you or when you're too far gone or not.
With alcohol especially. Like, I just know when it's like...
It sometimes can sneak up on me if hidden, but mostly I just don't drink that fast enough. Or even with mixing, it doesn't hit. But I'm also a heavy enough drinker that mixing usually doesn't hit me by surprise.
Mixing, yeah.
Maybe with marijuana or...
No, I mean, it's just... I just know, like, when it's right before I start getting the spins, I usually it's always like a clearly defined choice. do I have this next drink? Because I've already had a lot.
Yeah.
And then usually it's like if I say yes, I immediately get into that zone and I'm like, oh, here we go. If I say no, then I don't. I just end up, drunk. But now it's like I've done it so I've crossed that line so many times now. It's like I know very, very, very like clearly.
How much with drugs in general is knowing your limitations?
That's a good point. I want to
with
know.
Anything and it depends on if you're buying with a drug that you're not used to can hit you harder. But I remember when I took MDMA for the only time, which I would take it again. I was drinking too, and the alcohol just wasn't hitting me, or so I didn't feel like it was hitting me. So I just stopped drinking. I was like, "That's fine. I guess I've had enough of it." But it was also because I was having this very novel experience.
Yeah, you don't need to drink when you're on Molly at all.
It also felt like it wasn't affecting me as much.
Kind of ruins it.
Yeah, really interesting.
What you should start drinking when you're coming down off of Molly.
That makes sense.
I mean, it's actually the come down is very important to anticipate on Molly. I mean, on Molly, it's not as bad than ecstasy was. Like E-pills, the come downs were destructive. They killed you. And
how long did it last? What were the come downs like? And when were you taking them?
Well, let's say
answer in reverse. When were you taking them?
I mean, you take E-pills. The roll lasts anywhere between depending on your tolerance, anywhere between and the quality of the stuff, anywhere between 2 hours to 7 hours.
Okay.
And the come down is usually it ranges just as broadly, but the worst case scenario is the come down could last just as long as the roll did.
Ooh, yeah.
And when the come down is usually a mix of fatigue, nausea, headache, like a hangover too if you've been drinking heavily. It's just not a good time. And there's very, 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 very little that could actually make you feel better. And it's like I feel like such shit. I don't even know if I could fall asleep. All I could do is just lay here with my eyes closed, paralyzed, But
is it best when you're able to just fall asleep and conk out through it?
Well, there's two magic cures. One, which my friend Georgie, well, God rest his soul, he was very fond of that he taught me, which was on your come down, just get home ASAP and just drink 2 24s or 2 Fosters and pass the fuck out drunk. And it worked like a charm. Just pass out through it. Another good one, a really good one, my preferred method is just smoke weed.
Yeah.
Weed is just it just magically cures the ecstasy come down. I'm not I'm telling you with stone cold clarity, it's so true. When you're
cold.
When you're coming down off of Molly or X and you start feeling like shit, just smoke fucking weed. You will feel instantly better. In fact, when you're in the middle of a rave and you're having a bad come down, just find weed, just smoke it. You'll feel a lot better. I mean, this is assuming you already smoke a lot of weed, because I would hope so. If you're at the point where you're doing fucking Molly or ecstasy, I would hope you have some experience with weed,
Yeah.
Because
how long it's been since you've had it, but yeah.
Because if it's your first time taking E and you're having that come down as your first time smoking a fat joint, you might have
that'd be a very noteworthy event or momentous occasion in your life, but it sounds like not a great night.
Yeah. So you got to be really careful, and you got to make sure you have a certain level. You got to know where you're at with this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, good trick for come downs is just smoke weed.
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol though, you can't. You got to be careful with the alcohol. I mean, to be honest, anything going down your throat's gonna feel good.
Yeah.
But beer is especially good. Beer and White Claw. That's why I love beer and White Claw, because when you're coming down off acid or shrooms, I mean, not really shrooms, but when you're coming down off acid or Molly and you just have a fresh cracked beer in a bag and you're taking that walk of shame after a whole night of partying, the sun's up and you're like, I need a fucking beer. I don't care if I drink it on the subway, if I drink it on the street. And I always do that too. Well, not so much these days, but I would always just drink in public and never give a fuck. And it's because I would never get hammered in public. I would always be commuting. I just got off work and it's I'm not gonna fucking ride this train all the way back without a fucking beer in my hand, And I never get caught. Well, for one, I know it's because cops like to racially profile people.
Yeah.
And I just don't fit the racial profile of a person who would be drinking on a...
Or even if they see you drinking, they know you're not going to cause trouble.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of laws like that where cops selectively enforce them based on their profiling, whether they think you're going to be someone that causes trouble or not.
I've definitely been in situations where they knew exactly what was in my brown bag sitting on that fucking train, but they didn't do shit because they knew I wasn't going to do anything. They knew I would. First of all, I'm always by myself. I'm not in a group. Second of all, it's like
you're Asian.
I'm Asian. Third of all, like I don't look fucked up. I look, I'm pretty lucid, just have my headphones on and shit, like looking at my phone while drinking my beer. Like they know I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's as a cop, like you would know it's a net negative for you to go after this person.
Yeah.
And I also love as a side note, like if I feel like I'm losing you, I always know how to reel you back in when I make it about like racial stuff, like racial profile.
You're right. I'm very easy to predict. You're right. You're a good host or co-host for that.
Well, I'd like to say it's because I know you, but yeah, that too.
And you know me, yeah.
No, but I always think about that stuff too. It's always in the back of my head. I may not talk about it enough. I'm sorry, guys. For all you longtime fans of the Terrorisk, I'm sorry for not talking about racial stuff more.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I'm always, because you know me for a long time now. I've always been conscious about racial shit, and
it's something that could get obsessive and annoying and tedious. Is being talked about all the time.
No. The thing is, when
I also live in New York, where we're just way more aware of it than
also,
other places.
Yeah, and also when I talk about it, I never get mad about it.
That's very important.
I never get mad about any of this shit. Like really, like no matter what, like because I always see both sides of it. Like no matter who you pointing fingers at, and there's always a well on the other hand. Like. I always see it in every case. Everyone from like black people to like Nazi Germany to like communist China. There's always on every side like, well, on the other hand, like, but maybe. And you're right. That is an important thing at least when you engage these subjects.
Being in New York is interesting because it's just so prominent because it's so diverse here. New York. I've said this before on the podcast. New York's the natural place to live if you're a racist because there's just so many races here.
Yeah, but being racist is a complicated thing.
And it gets tiresome, and it's not a substitute for having a personality. Painful as that is for me to say.
Well, I was gonna say there's also different like contexts for racism.
Mm-hmm.
There's like trauma-based racism. There's statistical-based racism. There's schizophrenic-based racism. Rooted in schizophrenic delusions. There's racism rooted in like I don't know, political mishap, whatever. Mm-hmm. But the traumatic history is the big one. Like imagine being an Asian kid and it's like crying. It's like, all the black kids in Brooklyn ganged up on me and now I hate all those black people. Like something's wrong with them.
Many such cases.
Or being the Muslim guy and all the Jews picked on you.
There's something for having the right upbringing, the right community you're in.
Yeah. I don't know. It's fun though. Sometimes it could be really fun to engage with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Let's see. What's fun about racial topics?
Oh, we don't have to talk about it. I don't want to bore you with it, but it's such a it just gives you infinite discussion material because no matter what, there's a whole bunch of racists and they're all going to be acting like themselves.
And also, like you can make art out of it. It's remember I had that movie idea where it's like you had like this Korean American dude, who goes to Korea, and then the main character is like this white dude who's got like nothing really going on in America, and then his friend calls him and says, "Yo, I got shit set up here. Yo, you got to come out to Seoul, man. Mm-hmm. Yo, there's mad bitches here that would love your white meat." And you're like, white meat? Never mind all that. Never mind all that. Just come through, man.
I wouldn't feel that shocking. It feels like commonly known enough about East Asia, but yes.
No, I mean you'd be more taken aback by the way I put it. You'd be like quoting me. You'd be like, white meat, and then I'd be like, yeah, just never mind.
I'd be hell yeah, brother. But
hell yeah, brother. Then it would be a comedy. It all depends. Do we want it to be a dramedy?
Well, it has to be a comedy. Straight up comedy. It's the most natural fit for this kind of story or milieu.
Because dramedy could work too. But dramedy has to lean heavily into romance. That's what I don't like about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it has to have some comedy in it.
Yeah, comedy. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Blomedies are the best. Black comedies.
I don't know about that. A lot of them are pretty hacky. But yes.
Well, I mean, the funny thing about black comedy is that like it's not what people think it is. Like black
A
comedy,
lot of it's just for a black audience.
no. When you say black comedy, people think like comedy for black people. It's or pertaining to black people, but it's not. Black comedy originally means comedy about things that isn't supposed to be funny.
Yeah, dark, yeah.
Yeah, like
Just like Negroes aren't supposed to be funny.
are they not supposed to be?
No, they're supposed to be funny. The stereotype has always been that they're funny. They're naturally entertaining.
Yeah, Asians too, I guess. Asians are pretty entertaining. They could do flips and shit.
I don't know. I think it's usually the stereotype's the opposite.
What
but
about Shen Yun?
yeah, Asians have to learn acrobatics to become interesting. They have to put a lot of effort and grind into being interesting on the base level of a black teenager.
Just playing with a ball.
Yeah, exactly. Far more entertaining than most Asian comedians.
Oh my god, Asian comedians, the absolute worst. I mean, I could
You
say
could just ride the train in Brooklyn and you'll hear far funnier repartee from black teenager boys on the train.
oh my god. It's just you know what?
Or Jews.
I respect the creativity behind like just the way all the clever ways they just shit on each other.
Yeah,
That's really what it is. But like, it's not productive to me. You know, it's like this is really what you guys just stand around in the circle do and talk about all day.
Yeah, you could be talking about math.
I don't like that either, though.
Yeah, I know.
I think Russians do that a lot. They talk about math.
Truly are Asians.
I guess honorary Asians. I don't know. I mean, Asians when they
The
usually,
Asiatic hordes of Russia, yeah.
here's what Asians are supposed to be talking about when they get around in a circle. All right, if you see like just a couple,
Family, honor, good school.
okay, close, but it's tangential. It's really supposed to be like family gossip, neighborhood gossip, local gossip, work gossip. It's all gossip because it's entertaining because you hear everyone's dirty fucking shit, but it's also very useful.
Yeah.
It's almost like you don't stand a chance if you don't have a good source of gossip in any given Asian community. That's what keeps you, integrated and gives you the edge. Like, so that's why Asians are so prone to gossip. And you don't just see it in the Asians, you see it also in the Jews. The Jews are very into gossip.
They are.
You know what a yenta?
Talking.
You know
Yes,
what
I do. I know a yenta. Yeah.
Trying to school the teacher here. All right, why don't you explain what a yenta is to our audience?
A busybody Jewish woman who's very gossipy and mean-spirited, usually older, I think. But I've met many young Jewesses who had very yenta qualities.
That's like a pitch perfect Urban Dictionary entry right there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Like straight up. Yeah, it's true. It's more or less 100%. And yeah.
They love talking about all the gossip in the shtetl.
Actually, I think we're onto something. We just hit a major breakthrough in what I don't know. But the thing is, when you look at any culturally homogenized community or group or population, it's usually the gossip that ends up being the main form of social capital.
Yeah, and destruction, backbiting, but yes.
I mean, even like major political moves in like culturally homogenous populations are usually been behind it. It's all
that gossip, interpersonal politics, which I've always been bad at.
I mean, who wants to be good at that shit? It's always by necessity, right?
Women, I think, but
I mean, yeah, there's levels to it, and it's always stuff at stake. But that's why I don't think women do it for fun. I think women understand
it is part of their social survival.
Yeah, they understand how essential it is.
Yeah.
It's us men that retardedly take it for granted.
That's true.
But you're right. I mean, you know what? I think there's supposed to be this like false power narrative as a man. That's like, oh, gossip is beneath me. That's for sissies and women. Who needs gossip? But in reality,
it's just that men, yeah, and it's just being able to socially maneuver and navigate. Men just generally aren't as good at it on average.
But they should be, and they can be, because like if you look at the most powerful men in the world who exist in the shadows, they're like intelligence officers or something, and what do? They gossip for a fucking living, except on a geopolitical scale. Like
I'm sure someone like Bill Clinton is fantastic at it.
Hillary, give me a gossip.
You combined him with Obama there, but yeah,
Hillary, where'd I put my gossip notebook?
yeah, that works a little bit better. That works better. Yeah,
Small marble notebook.
I think you have to go slower to do a Bill Clinton.
It's a small marble notebook.
Yes, you really got it now. Yeah,
Kept it since elementary school. He tries really hard to hide his accent. I think that's why he talks like that.
I think he's like perfectly calibrated to have a bit of a hick accent without having too much of one.
Yep. Definitely engineered. Definitely.
All those politicians, when you meet them in person, they're in like the top level of charisma, so they're often so persuasive to be around.
True.
It's very hard to ambush them because they're so good at interacting with people.
I don't give a fuck how terrible of a president he is. I would love to be in the same room as a president and talk to him one-on-one.
Yeah, same.
I don't care who it is.
Yeah,
Living
same.
or dead, if you ask me that question, I would say all of them. Any of them. Pick any one. They say, oh, what about this guy? He did this. I don't give a fuck. I'll still talk to him.
If you could have
He killed Chinese people. I don't give a fuck. I'll talk to this guy. You know?
Yeah.
He bombed the Japanese. He nuked him. All right. I definitely need to talk to this guy. Like,
Yeah, it'd be fascinating to talk to Truman.
hells yeah. Probably one of
Yeah.
the most...
Name 3 people from history you talk to, and your response is all the American presidents.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think good choices. Good choices there, yeah.
I wish I could say I'm a child of the world. I wish I could say I'm more worldly, but no, I'm a red-blooded American, whether I like it or not. I didn't ask for
cheers
it.
to the US of A.
I mean, I didn't ask for it. You know, like I was literally born in this circumstance.
Yeah, but where else would you be? I'm glad I'm an American and nothing else.
I mean, it's just something that like I want to. I do, and on some level, see it as a privilege. But even if my fellow Americans didn't see me as an American, I did, and that didn't let me get the benefits truly of being an American. I would still, at the end of the day, have to look in the fucking mirror and be like, I'm an American. You know, like even if my fellow Americans hate me for whatever reason, I guess I'm still gonna have to live with that as an American. You know, and people should take the bad with the good. You know, like that, and I think that's how I'm gonna handle it. Like. Unless the whole country really just wants me fucking dead, then it's like, well, I don't know. At this point, maybe I'll just give it up because, like, I could only go so far with my national identity here. You know, I can only forgive so much and try so hard with these people, my people. Here, give me it.
Oh.
Is it really fucked? Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I know what to do.
What?
I don't have to go anywhere.
Nice.
Oh, you want your toothpick back?
Nah, it's fine. Not yeah, give it to me back. Thank you.
You're welcome. Here you go.
Appreciate it. The whole world, the natural end state of the world is to be either Chinese or American. Someday the entire world will either be Chinese or American of the two great assimilating cultures.
I bet you everyone in South America will be speaking Chinese in no time.
I feel like South America is going to heavily lean America just because of how close we are.
Maybe. Ideally.
I think half of Africa will be China Sinicized.
That'll be
You're just going to have a bunch of like black guys going around speaking Mandarin and a bunch of Blasians.
That'll be so fucking funny. But
all the single Chinese guys getting African wives will lead to a whole generation cohort of Blasians.
if you think about it, though, this kind of had to happen. Like, I mean, do I necessarily like it or dislike it? No, but it's really just Asians and blacks. Like, they're the only ones who could really balance each other out in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's true. You just recreate a white when you have them crossbreed.
I guess in a lot of ways, yeah. But I don't know. Asians also have been mixing with a lot of others too. Maybe Asians are just a mixer race.
Just so many. And then in America in particular, they tend to outmarry. Such a high number outmarry, particularly to whites, but
There's a lot of fucking Asians for sure.
China in particular, even with the collapsing birth rates and aging population. Will China be crippled by its huge senior citizen population, or will they just move them into human hives to while away their days?
Yeah. Chinese hives.
Yeah. With minimal government services, and I don't know, maybe AI robots or maybe not to take care of them. Just imagine all those ghost cities in China are going to be populated exclusively by old people.
That'll be a cool. I mean, see these kinds
It's like a cool scenario.
these
though,
kinds of scenarios would be cool basis. Would be the actual cool basis for a story or a movie.
yeah, set in the new city of Guangqing, where it's at the median age at 65. There's 20 million senior citizens living in this city.
Yeah, but there's always this penultimate movie that kind of renders every other movie like it redundant, like Child of Men.
Children of Men, yeah.
Men. It's so good that it's like you couldn't even top it. Or
Yeah, it is such a great movie about no kids. I love Children of Men. Novel's good too, or novella.
Indeed. So yeah, I mean, that's gonna be cool though. I would love to visit places like that.
Yeah, same. China's PR reputation has really come around.
Yeah. True. All right, so we're gonna have to put.
I speed in China. I show speed in China.
You chose speed in China?
No, I just see clips from the streamer in his Chinese trip, his PR trip, saying all the amazing things and doing his minstrel show act.
If I went to China, I'd want to go to like those bars where the Chinese lady is singing on karaoke machine while everyone's drinking, and
That's like every place in Asia. Asians love their karaoke.
yeah. I just want to vibe out there, you know.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Go to a Canto Pop bar. Go to a bar where it looks like 1960 in Hong Kong.
Yes, that's what I want. That's what I want to try.
Yeah.
We check a place like that out, and it's like, you know, just vibe out.
Yeah.
It's cool when you have business there too.
Yeah, you have a meeting in the dumpling bar.
Yeah, exactly. I like that shit. It took a while, I think, in my life to really appreciate aesthetics.
Mm.
But at least I could say I came into it like organically. I wasn't born into it or anything, you know?
Interesting. For me, it was just something I grew up with as a constant in my life. Something I was definitely raised with. So I'm intrigued to see it or see your reactions in adulthood, as opposed to me having experienced it all or gone through it as a kid.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I cared more about aesthetics now because I'm more conscious of things like energy, chi.
Yeah.
Also, because I do like significantly less drugs these days, maybe.
That'll be a big factor, yeah.
So I just pay
You have
attention.
to pay attention more. You just naturally pay attention more. And you have to replicate some of those experiences just entirely organically without a substance.
Well, it's also like when you really notice things like as they are on a more meta level than you originally look at it.
Yeah.
Like for example, like you can't control.
More thoughtful, more contemplative level, I'd say.
Or it's
You,
like
you can't control your outer circumstances. You can control how you react to them.
yeah, you know that stuff like that is kind of an example of like looking things on a more because you couldn't come to that conclusion unless you're able to pull away to a certain degree to your reality from a certain dimension. This is why a meta narrative is important, guys. You can't do this without like something, you know. Call it energy, call it God, call it divine power, call it magic, call it mana. There's definitely different like flavors, but I think they're all talking about like generally the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. There's one connectedness, all parts of one source.
The intuition.
And similar experience. They're all reaching or grasping at the same thing.
Yeah.
Varieties of the religious experience by Henry James or William James. William James, I think.
Yeah.
Henry James was the writer.
But I think like the veil is kind of like lifting, or the
Yeah.
veil is thinning, where it's like,
I know you said more and more people are having that experience.
well, not even an experience. Like it's always in the small things. Like you start saying things around people like, oh yeah, we all know like Donald Trump is a very powerful warlock or
Yeah.
or a shaman, and maybe at one point people would just look at you like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" But now it's like, yeah, totally. He's probably got his mana way up.
Yeah. He's a powerful wizard, high level spellcaster.
Yeah, he doesn't drink alcohol.
Yeah, that's true. He doesn't. It's one of those noteworthy things about him is him being a teetotaler.
But I think
It's so worthy how many of our presidents, well, like Biden doesn't drink, Trump doesn't drink, Obama doesn't drink because he's a secret Muslim, and George W. Bush is sober.
I don't know. What I do know is that drinking definitely does fuck with something deeper than your body and mind.
Our last drunk president was what? Richard Nixon, I think.
Up-based. The last real man president, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. Whereas we used to have a ton of drunk presidents, like Ulysses S. Grant.
Real ass men dealing with real ass problems, not these
FDR.
abstractified powers and all this shit.
Well, just heavy drinking was just more normalized and common in the past. So,
yeah. I mean, but I think like Donald Trump becoming president does kind of, because the truth is, like, this was most prevalent, I think, like the most obvious or open to society and accepted at the same time was in the 60s.
yeah.
When everyone was like, this country is not just run by the president of the United States, it's also run by guys like Henry Ford II, or
Allen
guys
Dulles, CIA, J. Edgar Hoover with the FBI, intelligence agencies and their reach and strength really increases in the post-war era.
or I'm also talking about like titans of industry,
yeah.
the Rockefellers, for example. Like there was a time when it was very apparent. It's like, yes, there's the president and, like Congress.
They
the Senate,
gained in power in the 20th century too, or late 19th century, but yes.
it's like people always talk about the oligarchy as if it's some new novel concept, but no, it's always been like this. It's always been. In fact, when did we forget this? When did we forget that these titans of industry have always been in the papers with alongside shoulder to shoulder? The only thing is, you don't know these people's names anymore. You don't know the chairman's names anymore like stockholders used to. You don't know every member of the board like we used to, with like Ford Motor Companies or something.
A bunch of it's public information if you go look for it.
Of course, 100%. But it's never like they're never as open with the spotlight anymore.
I think a bunch of them are less interesting. I think a lot of the robber barons, a lot of those titans of industry in the late 19th, early 20th century were often more colorful figures. They're also being reported on more. But I don't know, they existed more as public figures.
Also, you know what? You're right. Because
I think they were genuinely just more interesting guys.
Not only that, and they were more interesting guys because back in those days, you were able to run a company like a totalitarian state, like its own mini totalitarians, like a dictator.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore. Like now there's a lot of...
it's a lot more diffused, yeah.
Yeah.
Now corporations... it's the difference between sort of like the earlier Soviet Union with Stalin or like the PRC with Mao versus later when it's just a politburo, like it's a table of guys deciding things.
Well, also we have to admit, like a lot of our American oligarchy comes directly from I'm saying the old school titans of industry, right? That have been in power, like that are running industries that are household names to this day. A lot of them got their just desserts because they helped win the war, basically, right?
Yeah.
They helped win the Great War. And as a result, that's why you see like companies like fucking General Motors and fucking Ford and all of them still around to this day. And who else? Fucking Lucky Strikes still being sold. I don't know. Lucky Strikes was probably sold.
Yeah.
Like
cigarette companies, but I guess Marlboro. What's Marlboro? It's
well, there's also like General Electric, GE.
Yeah.
But I don't know how long, I don't know the actual history
Scandinavian Tobacco Group is a big one, and Philip Morris.
Philip Morris
Is the big tobacco conglomerate. They've really fallen off, I think, a lot, just because fewer people smoke. But yes.
Well, things change, and
yeah.
You got like new shit coming out. Now the Chinese are trying to like muscle in, Koreans too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am Korean American.
Do you ever smoke Chinese cigarettes?
Hell yeah, I love them shits.
They're harsh, but they have beautiful packaging.
I don't think they're harsh at all. I think they're pretty light.
You can get them cheap in Chinatown, like $5 a pack or whatever.
Yeah, those cigarettes are super light, and their beers are super light, which means I could just like sit there on a hot summer night on a fucking...
Yeah, they're perfectly tuned to your physiognomy.
But that's basically what they're designed for.
Yeah.
Like, you're just sweating in the streets, sitting on a milk carton, watching people drinking Tsingtao after Tsingtao, and drinking Chinese cigarette after Chinese cigarette till like a pile of butts forms beneath your feet.
Yeah.
That's how
living the life. Yeah, just squatting on a metal crate in a busy Chinese urban environment.
Yep. Drinking Tsingtao.
Yeah. Do you like Big Trouble in Little China?
You asked me that, and I still never saw it.
Fuck. No, I've asked you that. Sorry about that.
I should see it.
I go through, we've been doing this so long, I go through a lot of standard things or statements I said while drunk and I forgot I said.
Nah, maybe it's just that much of a movie that I should see. I'll see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also stoked for the summer.
Yeah. I am too.
I got to make sure my air conditioner is in great working order because I have a feeling I'll be doing a lot of sitting in traffic.
Yeah, you really do need to check that out. Damn, yeah.
That's probably fine, though.
Damn, still don't have an AC in my room. My windowless room.
Really?
Yeah.
That's harsh, man.
Yes, I sleep in the basement, but it's not that much better. But yeah.
I wonder how hot this summer's going to be.
I hope it's not that hot, but yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, have summers been getting hot? Have we been...
Yeah, they have, yeah.
I thought we've been cooling down a bit.
Let's see, 2 summers ago, I think, or was it 3 summers ago, we had that relatively mild one where it didn't get hot until like July. That was the one where we had the year where there was the fires in Canada, and we had that post-apocalyptic week of weather in New York where there was all the smog and everything was orange.
Yeah, I don't know. I never really gave a fuck about any of that because... I mean, it seems pretty predictable. The only thing is, I'm not worried even. I'm curious.
Yeah.
To see what the human population does. If it does shrink. If it does noticeably shrink.
I think it will contract, yeah.
Because it's one thing to slow growing, but to actually go from like 1 year we had X amount of people and the next year we don't. I think that's a huge deal, right?
It is, and even before that, a lot of people you see are just getting older and older. You also move to those few big cities of your country just to be around young people because young people congregate where other youngs are. Their hometowns are just filled with olds. You meant this is like I've mentioned this before. I know.
No, you've mentioned a few times like about like the population of young people, and I'm trying to like think now. Like I'm pondering how
pyramid. Yeah.
How significant how significant a population of young people really is in a given community, and I guess it's pretty important.
Yeah, I mean, all throughout history, the median age leans young.
So sadly, what this tells me is that the coolest shit really is universally appealing to all age groups, which is sad because some of the coolest, it's not, maybe the coolest things that I thought were cool were actually just the most intense things because it came with the intensity of
Came with the intensity, there is fresh and new, there's a scene with it, there are young people around.
But it wasn't really sustainable.
Yeah, what is though, but yeah.
I mean, plenty of things are sustainable that appeals to many ages, like martial arts, for example.
Oh, fair.
Or like car stuff. You always see like old car guys, young car guys. And then there's other things where it's like you do kind of have a peak, and you just have to stand as a sad observer for the rest of your days. That you can no longer engage with. Other things like chess, for example, appeals to like all age groups.
That's true. Yeah.
Or billiards.
Yeah.
Poker. And these things could go very, very deep. This is what I'm saying. All the best shit appeals universally to all age groups.
It's good to have things that you can continue doing for the rest of your life.
So wait, you're telling me that would you say that you think a lot about you spend a lot of time thinking about like things that usually are propped up by the energy of the youth, you'd say? Like culture, like a lot of culture. Because a lot of culture.
Yeah, I'm entering middle age, but yeah, my whole life up until this point I've been youth focused, yeah.
What would you say are your interests that are like universally more age appealing? I'd say fashion is universal. Yeah. Actually, no, not really. That's kind of like
youth oriented. Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
You can dress well as an older person.
Of course,
there's a lot to it too.
100%.
An interest in like literature,
Oh yes.
or media.
Yes.
Movies more so. Movies
Uh-huh.
because it's increasingly going to become something only old people are into.
Yeah. True.
I went to the symphony like 2 weeks ago. Everyone in the theater was old except for a few music students. I suspect film's going to go the same way. You'll go to an in-person film screening.
Holy shit! I just
and
thought of,
it's
I
going
just
to be
thought of
all old people. What?
I just thought of a great fucking idea.
What's that?
What if, as Terrorisk, we do like a singles movie night? It's like a bunch of us agree to meet up at the movie theater to watch one movie, and we just sit in the theaters and watch a movie,
That'd be nice.
and then we meet at a bar afterwards.
Yeah, I think anything to get out or interacting with people really helps a lot.
This is a good idea. All the best ideas just pop up out of nowhere. When I try to come up with a good idea, it never comes. This is how I know it's a good idea. I got to remember, like seriously remember this one. Terrorisk meetup in New York City. We're all gonna go see this stupid fucking movie, and then afterwards we're gonna get blackout drunk,
We're all going to see the Minecraft movie.
or the Emoji movie.
Yeah.
They're gonna show it again in theaters. So it was that good.
I've heard a lot of people are saying that screenings of Minecraft movie are significant just because of all the kids like cheering throughout the movie. Not even laughing, just applauding at meme lines. That's an audience participation movie for young kids.
Yo, you just gave me like this
What's that?
flashback of this tweet I saw where
Yeah.
like this guy crashed into this car with like 2 kids in it,
Yes.
and then they immediately just started getting out and
They're
dancing.
doing
and
a
sing.
TikTok dance, yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, I saw that video. Yeah, I felt like it's staged, but maybe not.
I was like, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Or maybe there was a car accident and the 2 kids were like, yo, we got to do a TikTok video.
Yeah,
for
that
our
also might have been the case. Yeah.
Yeah. What's up, Kit? What's up, Kit?
What's up, cat? Yeah, you want attention?
Yeah.
Mochi, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, my cat. He's a good cat.
yeah.
He's been a solid roommate. We definitely chill hard. I let him laze about. I let him do whatever the fuck he wants.
You
Within
pay
reason.
full rent and board, yeah.
Yeah. I even give him the top quality food. That's how he got so fucking big, I think.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
As soon as I started giving him like Hillside's food, like he just
Yeah.
blew up in size. I was like, wow, protein can do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's a big buff boy. Yeah. Sometimes I wish I was a cat. That would be nice. Dress up as a cat. That's what I
Yeah.
should do and make TikToks. Go find car accidents
Walk around, yeah.
and then dance in front of the car accidents.
Yeah.
Damn, life as a TikToker. I would never.
Yeah, same.
Honestly enough, though, it's almost like streaming and stuff and doing shit like
Yeah.
this, for example. It's almost increasing in novelty. It's because like nobody wants to bother to even get the resources to be able to do this. And I think about it, I'm like, you know, because like by now it's like second nature for us. It's like, yeah, this doesn't take much, but it really does. This actually does.
No, it does take a lot. I have to come down here too from Brooklyn, but yes.
Yeah, it does take a lot. Like I didn't, you know, I was like thinking, it's like, shit, I have no more excuses left. I have everything I could possibly need to just make whatever the fuck I ever want. You know, when it comes to media. And it is, yeah, I can't make like a feature length cinematic film, which not yet, someday, you know, but I could still like put something together and I should just start. I'm just going to start with going back to music. I have like something that I want to do again. I'll just fucking do it. And I think as I like do other things, it'll make the podcast more interesting because I could start spicing it in. Just keep it simple. I mean, I have no choice but to like level shit up because now that I'm not drinking, it's like, fuck, you know, like I got to do
Yeah,
something.
you have more time and you have more focus. And you don't, when you're not drinking, you don't have those nights when you just get so wasted you can't do anything except watch a movie or pass out.
Exactly. I never.
Yeah.
So imagine never having that anymore, and I'm
Yeah.
like wired now. Like I'm like, fuck it, hey, dude. Like,
Especially you're drinking caffeine throughout the day. You're hyped
well,
up.
I'm not
It's
drinking caffeine throughout. It's just first of all, I didn't mean to buy 2 Red Bulls. That was a stupid mistake on my part.
Yeah.
Two.
And then the tea and coffee or just the tea.
Well, the tea doesn't really do anything to
Yeah.
me. It's the coffee. That's why when it comes to podcasting, my program is 2 mugs. I do 1 mug of coffee, 1 mug of tea, one for
Yeah.
each hour, and I usually I do like
Evens you out and you do 2 joints at the beginning, 1 at the end.
well, I'm supposed to do like I usually do 2 fat joints, 1 for
Yeah.
each hour. So that's what I got to go back to doing that because that just worked the best.
I like this, but
Oh yeah, just roll it whenever. Just liberally rolling. Honestly,
well, I love spliffs because I love tobacco so much, and my weed tolerance is much lower than it used to be.
I'm so good at rolling that I think a rich person could pay me to like roll for them, and I would be like one of the best people they would ever hire. I could roll while in a car, like rolling.
Yeah.
I like driving. I could roll. I think I could be able to roll like on a boat, like open air boat.
Yeah, if it's not too windy, yeah.
No, I mean
When it's rocking and all, it's actually not that bad being out on a boat.
I could roll in public discreetly. I could roll anywhere, and I could roll it really good. Have you ever seen me roll a bad joint?
No, I haven't.
Right?
You're a great roller, yeah.
Anything I could do with my hands, I'm pretty sure I could get really good at. Like open heart surgery, even if you just teach me the steps, I bet I could be really good at it.
Yeah, you have good dexterity, yeah.
It's just funny how like hands work. That's why I'd be super bummed about ever losing my hands.
Yeah, well, I mean, beyond any other factor, yeah. I'd much rather lose a foot or a leg or both than my hands.
Right?
I can't jack off my feet.
You'd be forced into semen retention.
Yeah. Yeah, it's C, forced into semen retention, yeah.
Meanwhile, like it's like I lose my hands in a horrific accident. You walk in and say, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" You just see me like meditating. It's like I'm doing the best I've ever.
Yeah. He got into the car accident, then he was enlightened.
That's so funny. Yeah, but yeah, tactile ability. I don't know. I would say when it comes to that stuff, just don't think with your hands. Feel with your hands.
Yeah.
Actually, I should say, don't think with words, think with your hands.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of people tend to like think with their eyes or think with their words, but you got to think with your hands, you know? Which is, honestly, it's like, I mean, what I mean by this is like, when you do mechanical things, like put shit together, whether it's a household appliance or a piece of machinery or gear, you have to like, screw things, bolt things on, and the direction.
You have to have awareness, physical awareness that always existed throughout time, and people are often lacking now. Up until computers, basically, almost everyone has a lot of experience with doing small motor reflexes with their hands.
Yeah,
their work, putting on clothes,
household chores,
doing repairs around the home, cooking, sewing. Yeah,
damn, these things are so fucking important.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
think
not
about for
individually.
The tens of thousands of years of when people were making stone tools, and how many people over the course of their lives would spend a bunch of time like knapping flint.
Yeah,
obviously it became a specialized role, but little dexterity, things like that.
I think it's what really helps is when you take things apart.
Yeah,
when you take things apart, you start to understand like this was actually put together by some process, and someone had to think of this process. And you could scale that out infinitely. That's the scary part. Like you could scale like a clock, a watch, and scale it out to like a whole car, or like and you could scale that out to a whole like ship, a freighter. You could scale it out to a rocket or a starship. It's like it's crazy, and it's when you think about it that way, it's the dexterous motion becomes easier. You know, because you start to. And all you have to do is just one delicate thing. It's like you put a watch together for the first time. Suddenly you become hypersensitive to every screw and how tight it is.
Yeah.
Or it's like how fast you slide your credit card. You know, it's like how rough you are with it as opposed to how more fluid and graceful you can be about it, I guess. Elegant. And yeah, it's a kind of mechanical IQ. But I think it's like it could be built and it could be... that's what I really love to see being cultivated in people. Like that's like the greatest thing, because everything else is like it's pretty obvious. This is more subtle, you know?
Yeah.
Like once you learn the trick behind the thing, like whether it's the way a pro basketball player moves or whether it's like the way a golf player like hits the slice every time.
Yeah.
Like just shit like that. Like once you practice it enough, you reach this little ticking point. Once you tick past that point, you just got something down where it's like second nature. You're like, oh shit, I got it. And once you get one thing down, the rest becomes easier.
Yeah.
And we've all got it to a certain extent. Everything from like learning the trick to winning a fighting like a fighting game.
Yeah.
Or like
The meta to a game, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the trick to any manual task or to a hobby or an activity.
Yeah.
Some basic thing that you can explain it to someone, but until they discover it through their own, they can follow your lead, your guidance, but they have to go through the path themselves to get it.
I think the earliest example that a lot of people can relate to is learning how to tie your shoes.
Yes, very true.
Yeah, that's like the first main one where you're just like, oh shit, this is so alien to me. And you're like, I don't fucking get this. Why do fucking people do this?
Yeah.
I just want to wear Velcro.
Yeah.
But then you actually learn it, and eventually it's so intuitive.
And it comes faster to some people than others. A lot of things in my life I thought I couldn't do because it took me longer to learn the manual dexterity task.
Yeah.
But when I actually just ground myself on it, I was able to get it, and then I was just able to do it.
Or like riding a bike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. That's a good one. I think like tying shoes, riding bike, playing video game. What else? Flipping a coin,
Yeah, there's a lot of things I never got, but if I just practice it, I would be able to get it.
snapping your fingers. Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the little things that just kind of, I think these are like they're like based software.
Yeah, they are. A lot of boomer tricks. Boomer men love trying to teach you this as a kid, and it's frustrating if you can't. At least for me, if I couldn't get it.
All the
And I
tactile,
feel proud that I can.
all the little tactile things. And this is the real, to me, this was always the real value of martial arts. It wasn't doing the cool fancy moves and learning like the things that'll fuck people up. It's the little stupid things they do in training. Like
Yeah.
certain kung fu schools are like, all right, take this brick, put it between your thighs, pinch it together with your toes pointing a certain way, and then keep your back straight and your shoulders back. And it's like, you do that, it's like, okay, it sounds easy. And then you do it for like 5 minutes and you're like, this,
Oh God, this sucks. Yeah.
I'd never want to do this again. And then you're
Yeah.
like, why do we have to do this? And you do it enough times where it's like, all right, get in your fighting position. And then you do it like super fast.
Yeah.
And it's like everything's solid and you're like, oh shit, this is why we do it. I think that's my favorite part of martial arts. It's the stupid parts of training where you don't think it does anything, but it does do something. That's the kind of shit that makes it esoteric to me. Long dramatic pause.
I know. I'm just thinking about those physical gestures, about things like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely many things. There's like skateboarding,
Yeah.
like freestyle skateboarding, learning how to do an ollie is like,
Remember how it was before you learned how to write? Holding a pen, even when you knew your alphabet, how difficult it was?
I think I was forced to write from a
Yeah.
very, very young age.
I wasn't forced to write that much.
Almost
bit,
as
but
far back as I can remember.
Really interesting.
I can't remember a time when I wasn't writing. Actually, the first time, my earliest memories is usually my earliest memory speaking.
Yeah.
They say my first words.
I popped into consciousness around age 3, which is pretty common for people. I don't have memories before that point.
Yeah. I don't remember when I first said my first words, but it was around that time, I think.
Yeah.
Like 3 or 2 or 3, probably like around there.
Yeah.
But yeah, my first word was water in Korean.
Fitting, because you always move like water.
Yeah. Also, I remember one of my earliest memories was seeing a mirror. I was like on my grandma's back, like,
Yeah.
and then I looked into a mirror. I was like really small. I was a little kid, and I was like, and I just recall that memory burned into my image.
Yeah. When you're able to recognize yourself in mirrors.
Yeah, that was a big one. Because I saw myself crying, and I was like, "Who's
Yeah.
that baby crying?"
Yeah.
It was me. Crazy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. I remember those things. But now it all just seems kind of redundant because I don't know. I feel more connected with everyone, not in a personal or a personable way, just in a sense where it's like everyone's the same soul living different lives in different bodies.
Yes.
I still feel that way.
I suspect you always will, having made that revelation.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It makes more. It makes the most sense to me. It explains a lot. It explains the most things to me. Like everyone is born like more or less very, very close with their true self, but it's as they live through life, they accumulate all this baggage that supposedly makes them who they are, their identity. But that's all temporary. That's all the fake shit. That's all the illusion. I mean, it's meaningful insofar as the soul is incarnated in this life, but once the body dies, then poof, it's all gone.
Yeah. I don't know, your true self, or how you cultivate your true self over your life.
I think it's just rediscovering it. It's like you live long enough, you get help.
Once again, like the sculptor carving away from the marble, the true self comes out.
Yeah, or it's also a decision. It's either your true self forces itself out, or it drags you down into the pits of hell and you never come out. Because it makes the most sense with like how I'm viewing like the lifespan of things. Because I'm in my 30s now, and like I came across this shit.
Yeah,
This is like referencing Carl Jung, how he talks about like shadow work and like the shadow, the repressed self that has to come out and does manifest itself one way or another, whether you want it to or not. And it could be very ugly if you're not prepared for it. And I don't know, just God bless that guy. Because he really put words to a lot of things. Yeah, he put a lot of words to a lot of things that people didn't really have enough words for. And the idea is, back to what I was saying, it's like, you know, we're born basically as babies, which is close to the perfect form of your true self.
Yeah.
Infinity, which is infinity. And then you accumulate all this material baggage, emotional, mental, physical. You become your individual self, your Carmen, your Chris, and all that shit, just as the longer you incarnate in this body. And once you die, you go back. However, if you figure out the whole thing before that event of your death, then you're so-called quote unquote enlightened. You understand. You reached gnosis, you know, or you've reached 5D, the fifth dimension, you know, however you want to call it. But that's essentially the same idea.
You reach that knowledge, that enlightenment once again.
Yeah. You understand what parts of you are actually real, actually matter, and what are actually true, and what parts are just illusions. Where are the illusions to maintain?
Yeah.
There's a point to it.
Which are dispelled, which you grow out of.
No, I mean, you could still choose to manage it as with your knowing, you know, because like if you really didn't give a fuck, you would just kill yourself.
Yeah. That's true, yes.
Then the game's over. And clearly we're put here to do something, play the game. Otherwise, our choices are to play or not play.
Yeah.
I'd rather play. If I only get a limited amount of time to play this fucking human game.
A lot of people neither play nor totally check out. They just float through it.
Well, that's because they're so locked. If anything, they're playing it as it's meant to be played.
Ooh, I see that.
They're so locked in that as a soul incarnated as a human, they forgot their soul self. They're just locked into animal survival. Like they're stuck in the tutorial mode of the game, which is expected. It's supposed to be that way. Otherwise, everyone would just be born and growing up and say, "Oh yeah, whatever." So no, then it wouldn't have its novelty in the first place. Then it wouldn't have its meaning.
There wouldn't be that discovery of it. Yeah.
So that's why I think it's there for a reason. You have to go through the experience of forgetting your true self. You have to go through the experience of atomizing yourself, of becoming Carmen or becoming Chris, so you know what it means to break out of it and reconnect. And knowing that, like, afterwards,
full circle, your hero's journey within your own life.
Yep. And what the beautiful part of it is, you don't lose Carmen in the conclusion of that. You don't lose Chris. It's still there. It's just more it's integrated, complete. Because it's like you at that point you're no longer afraid of death.
Yeah.
And you're no longer really regretful of your birth. You're just like, it is what it is. We're all just we come from the same source, and apparently the source is bored. Like, otherwise they wouldn't see. You know, it's like clearly they're lonely, they're bored, they're crazy. As being God, like, who knows, for whatever reason, and they have to manifest itself through us.
What a wonderful experience! What a wonderful existence to live in.
I mean, I think the real miracle is being able to conceive of it. It's like, oh, I see. You know. And don't get me wrong, there's always going to be reason and rationality and logic in our heads that are going to argue about so many facets of this, but that's also there for a reason, you know?
Yeah. So anyway, summer's coming up.
Summer's gonna be great.
Yeah, it is going to be great. Manifesting a delightful summer. Expecting long, languid days. A lot of biking, a lot of getting out into the city, experiencing new things.
Mm-hmm. You should.
I will. Well, I'm very excited for it.
Yeah. As long as like I'm out of work, I could do whatever. But I definitely do want to like make stuff. I'm just gonna keep working on Drift Funk and see like
Yeah.
just keep making.
Well, you have a car now to be an instrument for playing the music you make. You can pull up and say, listen to this track I just mixed.
Oh, that's funny. With the subs.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully that's gonna like fire my creative cylinders so that it's gonna make me want to make more videos and sit and
Yeah.
shit.
And get the honeys out.
Oh, I was thinking of literal honey.
Yeah, you're going to go to the apiary and pick up a bunch of jars of pure honey in your new souped up automobile.
Like Jason Statham.
Yeah. Yeah, the beekeeper. I did not watch that. Did you?
Nope. That didn't seem like a worthwhile watch.
I'm intrigued vaguely, even though I know exactly what to expect.
Well, I'm glad the movie exists because I like it. I like this new trend of like
Jason Statham being in common jobs where he's a martial arts guy,
yeah,
a working man, the carpenter, the mechanic, the plumber,
the accountant,
the electrician. Yeah. What was it? The bricklayer, the Aaron Eckhart one, the mason, or the bricklayer? I think.
I don't know. They'll both sound pretty believable. Mm-hmm. The IT guy.
Yeah. No. It has to be like a trade. It has to be a trade that they're doing.
The ferryman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The toll worker.
Once again, not a trade.
Damn.
The Cooper. He's just making barrels in Colonial Williamsburg, and he has to get back into the game for one last mission.
The salesman.
You keep saying like white collar jobs and not trades.
What about the barber?
Yeah, like that.
Okay.
There you go.
All
yeah.
Right. The barber.
The cobbler.
The cobbler? Okay. What about the watchmaker? I bet half of these movies already fucking exist.
Well, the cobbler exists. It's a not very funny dramedy with Adam Sandler as a Jewish cobbler who has a magic shoehorn or whatever.
What about the farmer?
Yeah, that works. Even though so many. Yeah. There's something about the specific trade, though, I think. The blacksmith.
The rapper.
Yeah, he's crafting beats. He liquefies an op with his overtuned subs. He straps him to the subs and liquefies his bones.
And he reports to his Jewish sensei.
And he's played by 50 Cent.
50 Cent's my favorite rapper.
Yeah, he's a very colorful personality. My favorite rapper is Kanye, not because of the anti-Semitism, though it's sad to see him crash out and obviously lose his mind and intelligence, but
I think 50 Cent. 50 Cent's like my favorite because he's so open about the fact that you would never want to hang out with him in person.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you want a rapper to do. They're
Yeah.
like, yo, dude, I'm not a nice guy, man. And to me, that's as enlightened as you can be as a rapper, where it's like 100% honest, upfront about it. It's like, dude, I'll shit all over you, man. Like,
yeah.
I respect it a lot.
I do too. Rap really feels like it's died off as a genre, or it's reached its twilight years with zanned out mumble rappers.
Well, let's think of it from a logical perspective,
It's
right?
originated in the late 70s, so it's had a long life cycle.
I mean, when you listen to any typical rap song these days, it's never about black empowerment, really. I mean, the closest you'll have is like fucking Kendrick Lamar. This is the same
just
dude.
very tedious, like poetry slam type of guy.
Yeah. So he's definitely not any kind of public speaker role model type. So hip hop used to be all about like fight the power and
Yeah.
but not anymore.
80s through 90s, yeah.
So now you listen to it and it's basically promoting you to like spend excess amounts of money, try to fuck excess amounts of bitches, which you probably never will, so it'll just make you upset. Do copious amounts of drugs.
I mean, a lot of it now, the mainstream pop rap is women talking about their pussies. And then, like, a lot of the male stuff is just like SoundCloud rappers who are so detached from even that kind of thing. They're not even promoting degeneracy so much as they're just
Caught up in their feelings.
Yeah, exactly. They feel more like neats now.
Yeah.
Which I guess many of them are, of SoundCloud rappers.
5 whole days away the same fucking thing.
Yeah, but you have to like have a bunch of bizarre samples, like an anime track playing there too.
Yeah.
And just be like mumbling it even more to the point where you're not even coherent.
You like that stuff?
No, I don't. I hate it. I'm confounded by Zoomers liking it. But it's also just a sign of my age. When I listen to my Zoomer roommates listening to Blade, I'm just bizarre. I just find it bizarre.
I like Blade. But I like his older stuff.
Yeah.
I don't like his actually I shouldn't say that. I don't even know his new stuff. I'm not even gonna speak on what I don't even know about. Like so
Yeah, well you haven't paid attention or kept track of it.
Yeah, but I like the original shit. That was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I mean like losing like things I guess it's just a part of the natural course of losing its novelty with all things. But like I said, the coolest things just are timeless.
Yeah.
And it's you know what it is? It's that the coolest things are really the stuff that like Jason Statham would be in a movie about. Like beekeeping, being a mechanic, carpentry.
Yeah, you're right. All these trades. Yeah, you're right.
Stoneworker.
Yeah. The mason, yeah.
The garbage man.
The garbage man, yeah, actually that would work well. The bacon.
Or the foreman.
Yeah.
The barber. The barber's my favorite.
Barber, yeah. Also has a lot of room for cinematic value with the razors, the scissors.
Yeah.
He turns the disinfecting spray into a flamethrower and all that.
If it was the barber movie, I think you need some kind of like brown guy, like Tony Jaa or something.
I could see that as like a Southeast Asian version of it, or capitalizing on the trend, or some Indonesian martial artist I've
you
never
see
seen
some
before.
guy walk, like some gangsters walking into a barber shop, speaking like, oh. And then you see Tony Jaa turning around menacingly, with this barber suit on. He just rips it off, and he's like jagged. He's like, come on,
yeah. No, he wraps someone's fists or hands in his apron to disable him,
and then he stabs him with
scissors. Yeah.
See, we'd be good at this.
Well, really, you just need to have a great fight choreographer.
You know what?
That's a big factor in all those things, like in the Raid movies.
Yo, there was this like one quest line in GTA 5 where it's like the aging Gen Xer who's like so caught up in like living. He's basically trapped living in the 80s in his head, like fantasizing about the 80s, and he's very big on movies.
Yeah.
So it's like, but the movie era is crashing. So he meets like the Steven Spielberg character. He's like, I love his movies, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He's some Jewish guy, some Jewish movie producer. And it's like, you basically end up playing out the fantasy of an aging loser who's so caught up in like a bygone cinematic era. And then you get the golden opportunity to meet your washed up hero. And you don't care that he's washed up.
Yeah.
You don't care that the movie era is this shit. You're still going to tell yourself the same lie. You're still going to tell him the same lies you tell yourself. It's like, listen, your movies are timeless. Like, you know, it's a shame. It's a crime that they didn't pass. You know, you're going to geek out. And then he's like, well, I got a problem. You see, he's like, what? I'm trying to fund this new picture. It's a great picture, Meltdown. But my actor's giving me a problem, and he's in cahoots with the director, and they're trying to turn on me. He's like, say less. Because if you're a thug dude in this position, you're like, say less. And then you bring a gun, and it's like, I'm going to scare them shitless. Look at this fucking movie. And then you become the assistant producer. Yeah. I think that would be like my dream fantasy for myself. Like, if I was like in that position where it's like, I would be like, yo, you're my hero, Kevin Smith. Nah, would it be Kevin Smith?
Be what, Steven Seagal?
No, that'd be worse.
Yeah.
I think the worst would be
making a film in Russia where he's sitting down through most of it, and a younger martial artist does most of the stunts.
No, it would be most likely, like in my case, like I'll go for the Biggest Loser, like Adam Sandler. It's like
makes a lot of money from his Netflix deals.
You're right,
but no, I know what you mean.
Now, for me, it would be good question actually. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. But it's like who's my favorite director actually? That's like pretty much like from the old days and washed up. Like someone like Ridley Scott or like fucking.
I don't know. He's making a bunch of films now just because he's an old man, getting everything he can out.
Yeah, but millennials and Zoomers don't really care about that shit anymore.
Zoomers really don't care about movies.
They care about Christopher Nolan shit.
Millennials do. Christopher Nolan is very much a millennial coded director.
I still like guys like Steven Soderbergh, you know?
Yeah. Still a Tarantino fan.
Tarantino. But you can't talk about it. It's like socially taboo now.
Woody Allen, who's what, 99
also socially
or something.
taboo.
Yeah. I mean, I know. Well, my favorite contemporary director right now is Robert Eggers.
Yeah.
The guy from The Witch, The Northman.
Is he the movie critic guy?
No, he's the director of those movies I just mentioned.
Oh. I want to see what isn't it funny how like you see a lot of actors that get so big they try to make movies to like, you know, mixed.
What, like George Clooney?
Yeah, or like Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Or Tom Cruise.
Yeah, Tom Cruise
does a great job, I'm sure.
He does. He holds together Mission Impossible, and he gets a lot of his. He's such a consummate professional, I know, and he's like in many ways the last movie star of this older school.
I feel like Tom Cruise is the Yankees and Mel Gibson is the Mets.
The Mets are racist?
More blue collar.
Okay, I see, yes.
Like the Yankees are the superstars and the Mets are always like, hey, it's...
Yeah, I see. I'm glad Mel Gibson has hung on and is still around.
It's like, hey, here's the Mets here to fuck up another game.
Yeah.
But then when they don't fuck it up, it's always magical.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of being a persistent fuck up.
Yes, it is. You establish such a low baseline that when you exceed it or do it at a proper level, it's a huge success.
And that provides a lot of thematic value.
Yeah, it does.
Like Donald Trump.
His tariffs, which I don't know. I'm tired of tariffs. I don't fully understand it. It just seems like disastrous trade or economic policy.
Oh, the tariffs.
Yeah. Probably end up walking it back, and I don't know, people would describe it as 4D chess, but I think it's already being walked back, but still.
Yeah. People forget. None of this is new.
Yeah.
I mean, America may not be that old, but we've had things tank.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not
had a consistent government.
And I'm not trying to be an optimist here, because like I'm like very cynical. It's just still nothing I haven't seen before. You know what's really going to surprise me?
What?
Foreign armed forces on our soil openly. That's going to be interesting.
I'm skeptical of it happening, but
like if we see like Mexican official armed forces just somewhere like openly declaring war, that'll be interesting.
I wouldn't expect it from Mexico. Or even China, bud.
China. Or maybe indirectly. Like you see Chinese forces like making themselves comfortable in the borders of Canada. And then America's going to be like, hey, whoa. And that's going to cause this whole thing. That'll be interesting.
It would. I think unlikely to happen, but
I mean, isn't that probably what they said right before like the Cold War and shit?
No, Cold War, there's a lot of build-up and expectation, and the closing days of World War II was fully expected.
Well, now we're getting a lot of build-up and expectation.
Yeah, no. I guess the question of Taiwan is a big one.
That's really, I think that's going to be the big thing. Like,
yeah,
if that does happen, if China steps foot on Taiwan, like,
that would be a very big thing that could possibly happen. It'd be very interesting.
And that's going to be like instant Cold War shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I talk to a lot of Chinese nationals.
Yeah.
On a weekly basis because of martial arts and stuff. But yeah, they They basically think about it a lot. You know,
I know it's a big part of the Chinese national character, part of the Chinese identity of thinking about wanting to reclaim that as part of the end.
No,
of the
I mean a
century
lot of them don't even care about it.
Yeah.
Most of them, actually, I think all of them, the ones I know, they don't give a fuck. They just want. If anything, they would rather just stay here.
That makes sense.
They would rather just things be as.
I know
they
the
are.
leadership of the PRC doesn't want to do it or is skeptical of it, but I know a lot of the Chinese national population is gung ho about it.
Does the PRC really not want to do it?
They might just be. They're just such a conservative government body, as you can see in the response to COVID and the prolonged COVID lockdowns. At the same time, they would like to. If they could do it without firing a shot, they would. But I don't know if they seem. But then again, who knows with how things.
The question is, what happens if they don't do it?
Well, we have a bunch of global struggles or Cold War-esque things going on right now already across the globe, with the Ukraine war, with Israel-Palestine.
No, because the problem is Taiwan.
Yeah.
Is responsible for manufacturing about 40%
chips. Yeah, I know the chip manufacturers, which is a big factor why they would want to have it.
40%, dude. That's nearly half of
the world's chip production.
Semiconductors.
You need those tiny Taiwanese hands of high dexterity to put them together.
You're not even wrong.
Yeah, it's a limited number of people who have the know-how. Yeah,
and the specific resource setup and the supply line.
Yeah,
supply
and
chain.
Manufacturing. Yeah.
So yeah, that could happen. China might need that. I mean, yeah, you could always say, why don't you just make your own semiconductors?
No, it's difficult. It's very difficult. Yeah, and it's only limited knowledge that has it. The thing is how much is China willing to encroach upon it, the risks it's willing to take. But if America seems weak or in economic dysfunction, they very well could go for it.
But if they don't do it, then because Taiwan is ultimately in the service of the West.
Yeah, it is. I'm sure China is trying or is ramping up their own production. China should be able to replicate it more so than we can, replicate it within their own country. I'm going to be surprised if they went towards.
I don't think it's about the design factors.
Yeah.
It's more about the production, the manufacturing.
Yeah, it is the manufacture of it. Yeah.
Taiwan just happens to have just happens to have it down, baked into their infrastructure.
Thing is, would a Chinese invasion of Taiwan be met by retaliation by America? If it's not, they'll definitely go for it. If it was, I don't think they will. They're too cautious.
I think countries are waiting until they could do this sort of thing entirely with drones.
Yeah, I could see that.
Then it'll just be all about drone supremacy, which is ultimately just semiconductor supremacy.
You already see it a lot in the Ukraine war, how drone heavy it is. Understandably so.
Mm-hmm. I think that war literally functions as a test bed.
It has been, yeah. Oh, those drone cages they have on their tanks.
Yeah, when you look at history books in the future,
Yeah.
they're going to look back at Ukraine, and it's going to be this is when the drone wars first started.
Yeah.
When countries first started seriously engaging each other with fucking drone warfare.
Well, if you're able to get autonomous drone swarms, that's a huge factor in the competition between them.
They already have it, I think.
Yeah. Really?
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were just like PvE. Not PvE. Remote controlled, whatever they're called, piloted by something.
No, they have remote.
I know that somewhat, but I'm wondering about how large the drone swarms are, the autonomous ones. Certainly you do for displays, for public displays, when you create a Chinese dragon in the sky over Chongqing.
But you got to think, if you could do that, I mean,
Chongqing.
what would stop it from flying into something? That's
Yeah, you're right. I guess it's firing weapons autonomously or whatever, having a proper weapons platform attached to it, as opposed to just following a pre-traced path while lighting up.
Or even if it was a kamikaze design, you can't stop.
Yeah, have the right payload. But you're right, a kamikaze design in particular, yeah.
That'd be fucked up. That's terrifying.
It already is in the drone vision videos we get out of the Ukraine war of them zooming in on people.
That's how we're going to die, Carmen, you and I.
Yeah. Well, You know, as unmarried, childless men in our 30s, we're probably actually the best people to be drafted. They should avoid drafting the young and draft guys like us.
Yo, I've always like, honestly, like I've always said, if I had to be drafted into war, I hope I get like squatted up with my buddies. That would be
Yeah, just like in the Civil War. Yeah.
It would be super fucked up because war is fucked up, but at
Yeah.
least you get to be with your buds.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the big part of it is the fraternity of it. Yeah.
And you got to admit, we would during that time. I bet you we would come up with the best jokes.
Yeah, I agree.
Like seriously, the best jokes. Unfortunately, it would be a lot of Asian jokes too. It's like
yeah, fighting China with an Asian on our team. Yep.
Yeah.
How are you feeling on time?
We're about ready for closing statements.
Yeah.
Yeah, my cat is lapping up.
Mm-hmm. Your lap cat.
Yeah, I thought all cats were lap cats. Apparently, that's not the case.
Well, I was going to say my closing statement that no matter what's going on in the world economically, politically, focus on what you can manage and control within your own life.
Oh yeah, that's definitely big.
Having clean your room, wash your penis, have a local locus of control. You'll find you're feeling a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely try my. Actually, I think I'm pretty good at it at this point. Like to not get upset over things that are out of my control.
Yeah.
I definitely have to at this point because I'm a 33-year-old guy. Meaning, if I fuck up, there's no one to really help me out of it. I'm expected to just get myself out of it, which is why it's very important for me to be proactive. And part of being proactive is to make sure you don't get upset or waste time on things that are not in your control.
Yeah.
But yeah, as for my own closing statement, I want to say that tea is awesome.
It is.
I mean, I don't know what you guys like to drink when it comes to tea. Like, what sorts of flavors are your preferred? Are your preferred tea of choice? But I like Earl Grey. I give it like a 5-star recommendation. And let me see. We still have like a couple minutes. Carmen, you got anything like a story or?
Nothing that's coming to mind here.
Well, there's one thing I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
What do you want to do for Richie's birthday?
I'll just have a
over
at the house.
You
Yeah.
already said you wanted to do that. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Maybe
Maybe
I
I could.
could do something earlier in the day too. I don't know.
Oh, like take him out somewhere to eat.
Yeah.
We could do that.
We'll probably be cleaning. We'll put off cleaning the house until the last minute. So of his birthday, we'll probably be doing a bunch of cleaning. But
Or maybe I could just bring a pizza
yeah, that'd be good.
early on or something.
Yeah.
It's Friday, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'll get out of work early Friday.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Hopefully this week isn't crazy. Nothing crazy happens. Just taking things one week at a time.
Yeah.
Anyway, with that, we'll sign off.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, people.